Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners' regular meeting today at 1:30. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regardless of an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairperson to allow sufficient time for all speakers. Speakers shall refrain from any abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Upon completion of the public comment period, discussion is limited to the board members and questions raised by the board. Mr. Dean, will you come up and he's going to lead us in the invocation? Thank you, sir. Let's all rise.
Thank you. Let's all bow as we approach our Creator. Our Father in heaven, holy is your matchless name. Father, we acknowledge that in and of ourselves, we don't really have we really just don't have the personal holiness to approach your throne, but only through your grace and mercy can we. Father, we confess that we are sinners, and we thank you so much for your patience and long-suffering with us. And Father, we thank you for the blessings that we have, the blessings of living in America, the blessings of civic organizations that still acknowledge you. We thank you for each commissioner. We thank you for their desire to serve in this county. We pray, Father, that today, as each issue is brought forward, that all of the information will be brought necessary for the proper decisions to be made. We understand there are priorities and there are limited funds. And so we pray you would grant each commissioner your grace for making the right decisions for this county and lead the citizens of this county in a way that moves this county forward. Father, we thank you so much for your love for us, and we're mindful only through the sacrifice of your Son. May we call you Father, and it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, sir. Commissioner Strover, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yeah, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Commissioner Berry, any items to add to the agenda?
No, sir.
Commissioner May?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add to the agenda because it's on the county attorney's report, but I'm certainly going to move forward with the Baptist Hospital to bring for a vote, and I think Baptist and the mayor will be here. So in that discussion, if there are any questions or any concerns, I would like to address the mayor and Baptist as it relates to a huge project that's in my district that's obviously been, in the media, that's been systemic, for many years. And so just want to carve out some time, not for a vote, but at the end, it's already as a discussion with the attorney.
So we'll add it to the county attorney's report at the end,
Yep.
because I don't see it on there.
I thought it was on the county attorney's report. It's not?
No, it's
well,
not.
If not, then I want to add it.
Okay.
If not, then I want to add
As
it.
a discussion only, though, correct?
Yeah, as a discussion,
Okay.
not a voting item, but I do want to add it. If we could amend it to add it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner May?
No, sir.
All right, Commissioner Stroberger?
No.
No, oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hopper? Okay, I don't have anything to add either. Commissioners Forum. Oh, actually, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I just need to clarify that the easement that admin has passed out is incorporated officially in the backup. Okay, then we're good.
Okay, sorry, Al.
Second the agenda.
Okay. Do we want to try electronic voting today or hand? Okay, I was going to try electronic. Please vote by hand. Vote passes 5-0.
Probably Doge will get rid of this electronic voting.
All right, Commissioner Berry, Commissioner
Hadn't
Forum.
worked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, a couple of good things. My dear friend Ben Boutwell is back as the mayor of the town of Century, which I think is fantastic news for not just a portion of District 5, but I think all of Escambia County. When Ben was was in office before. The town was successful in procuring some money out of Tallahassee, as well as furthering and beginning and seeing to completion some partnerships with Escambia County. And a very small circumstance that probably won't get discussed this evening, but we do have something on the agenda today where we're donating a small parcel that the county had been escheated to the county through lack of tax assessment payments to the town for a municipal project that the town is doing. So I think it's just a first example of back in good graces with a strong partnership with the town. I'm happy to see him, and for those of you that don't know, Ben participates in PEDC as well as generally in TPO meetings, and is a real advocate for the town, and with a history of success, which is certainly needed. Also want to congratulate Northview. Northview softball is making their first state tournament visit this coming week. They play in Orlando on Tuesday morning. They beat Jay earlier this week, and Jay had won a state championship very recently. So certainly congratulate Principal Mike Sherrill and everyone involved in Northview softball. That's a big threshold to make your first state tournament, and they're on their way. So I want to congratulate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Commissioner May?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, it was great to see all of my colleagues at the Law Enforcement Memorial, at the Sheriff's Office on Tuesday. The City Police held their ceremony, and on today, the county did, the Escambia County Sheriff's Department, and so certainly want to thank all of our law enforcement and thank all those who actually risk their life each and every day to protect their community, and so we are certainly grateful to our law enforcement personnel. Want to send a real shout out to Clara Long and her staff, Maisha and all those. I think we have a record-breaking number of applications for summer employment. I think it's approaching the number of 1,800 children who are applying to get jobs, and I think year-to-date, Claire's told me that we have about 37 young people who decide to live, work, and play in Escambia County because they got an opportunity to stay here and get a job and not be pushed to Atlanta and Washington and Texas because they were given opportunity. And so I want to thank the directors who decided to give the children an opportunity to not be threatened that they were taking your jobs and say that, it's important for mentorship, and quite frankly, it's difficult to teach. It's difficult to bring a young person into your office and give them an opportunity. But quite frankly, all of us have been given an opportunity that, quite frankly, we may not have deserved. So to all of those departments and directors who thought it worthy enough to give young people of Escambia County an opportunity, I want to personally thank you. For those of you who were frankly too busy to give opportunity, I hope in the near future that you will recognize that if we don't mentor and allow for young people to get an opportunity to work and to learn, we will have a death in our community because we will continue with our economic development, with our job creation, to import people from outside this community because we have failed to train the next generation. So to all of our staff, Wes, I know you've taken that leadership, to all of our departments that have decided to help train young people, I certainly appreciate that. And to our summer youth program and our yoga program that's really growing, I know that we are busting at the seams at Wedgewood, Commissioner Cole in your district, Lexington Terrace, in getting kids at Brownsville and Ebenwood prepared for the summer. Congratulations, and I was able to be at the Cox Service Award, recognizing young people who have faced disabilities, adversities, to be recognized by Cox Communication. Thanks to Dave Dellamy and to Cameron Johnson for recognizing those young people, and to all of our graduates. I had the opportunity to be at the pinning ceremony at Pensacola State College and see young people who came through my program that are now becoming nurses, and congratulations to them, and congratulations to all of our young people who are graduating from our high schools, from our state college, and from our university. Won't be able to congratulate them before they walk across the stage, but I certainly expect to be there. And finally, to Marcia Surlis, and thank Jordan my intern, who at Children's Trust meeting on Tuesday, told me we needed to get to Sacred Heart Hospital, to the Surlis family and to Sacred Heart Hospital. She passed today at 11:15. She's been a great supporter of District 3, a great supporter of youth programs, and she has been great at West Florida Technical High School, working in the guidance department, and at the young age of 40 plus, she lost her life, and so our prayers are with her family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Commissioner Stroberger?
Thank you. Just a few things to talk about. First thing is Pensacola Navy Days. We started off on last Friday with a magnificent National Naval Aviation Museum Gala. That was Friday night. And then that's always spectacular over at the museum. Captain Gillum, as he always says, he says your National Naval Aviation Museum. They always do a great job. Saturday morning, we had a 4K run and a parade. My daughter came in second place in her age group. Shout out to Christina. She beat you, right? After the run, we had several flyovers, jets, turboprops, helicopters, my favorite. Mike's favorite, too. That was followed by awards, and then the reading of a proclamation to Captain Newman on behalf of Escambia County. You can pass out the shirts if you want to now. We got a bunch of T-shirts left over. I still got more in the car that I'm going to bring back to the committee, but I got permission to give a bunch of these out to the folks out here. If you want a shirt, we've got a shirt for you from the 4K run. So with all that going on, the one thing I'll remember most, no kidding, the thing I remember most about Navy Days is what a superstar Jose Gachas is. Superstar. So I needed that proclamation, and I was reminded about that proclamation at the gala Friday night, and I needed it Saturday morning, and I didn't know what to do. I thought I just wasn't going to do it. And I sent an email or a text out to the group, and I said, I just don't think I can do this. I don't have the proclamation. And they told us Santa Rosa's going to have one. It's going to be a bad look. I said, well, shoot. Let me text Jose. Jose answers me back right away and says, no problem. He came in early on Saturday. He printed it out, framed it for me, and he placed it at my door just before leaving to take a trip out of town. Saturday morning. So in job interviews, since I've been out of the military 18 years, I'm always asked, what's been the hardest transition for me being a military officer, and this has got to be the same for lots of military officers, to becoming to the private sector. And I always, and this is it, having somebody like Jose around all the time and just being surrounded by people like Jose. That's what I miss about being in the military. Working with people who absolutely go above and beyond so we can complete the mission. So I'm grateful, Jose, and I want everybody to know that I'm grateful, and we're all grateful for Jose. Thank you, Jose.
Hey, you need to give him an honorary name.
Yeah. Okay, and then Tuesday, I attended the Pensacola Police Memorial. Mayor Reeves, Chief Randall, Pensacola Police Department celebrated the lives of officers lost in the line of duty. And again, of course, this morning we were all at the Sheriff's Law Enforcement Memorial Service, another solemn service moment with Sheriff Simmons. Today is Peace Officers Memorial Day. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in honor of all our law enforcement. Please observe a moment of silence. Okay, the last thing I got is this Friday, the Friday before Mother's Day, that was last Friday, is Military Spouses Appreciation Day. Tomorrow, the Navy League of Pensacola will show their appreciation for some awesome military spouses. They do every year. And I wanted to recognize my favorite spouse, well, my only spouse. Gina. So in my military career, like many spouses, they're not always recognized. You can't recognize everybody, and some of them really stand out. But she sure was a special spouse, and I could talk about her superwoman feats as she single-handedly raised our 5 kids, mostly all by herself. During my military career, I'm on deployment, I'm doing something. With no family nearby, we're on the opposite coast, and she's got 5 kids. She's either bringing them on the plane or she's going to the grocery store. These aren't hard things to do if you're, even with, if your spouse or your husband's there too. But there she is, comforting. I remember on one deployment, she's got 5 kids. I'm leaving on deployment. There's another pilot with me, senior to me. His wife's got 1 baby. Gina's got a 6-month-old, a 2, a 4, a 6, and an 8-year-old. And this woman was crying because she doesn't know what she's going to do without her husband there. And she's got 1 baby. My wife comforts her, and I don't know if she mentored her, I wouldn't say that, but that's who my wife was, or is still. That's just one deployment. And if you've met my kids, you'd agree that they're all great adults and great citizens, thankfully because of my wife. And with 5 grandkids and Dash 6 coming on in September, they can all appreciate the sacrifice of their mom. And Christina, just got out of the Navy, I think it was Friday night at midnight. That was her last moments in the Navy. They can all appreciate all the moms and all the military spouses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Strober. Commissioner Hopper?
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. It's an honor to serve as your commissioner, and I'm excited to share some updates from District 4. Last night, we held our Community Conversations event in Regency Park, where folks from Ferry Pass came out and expressed their concerns about flooding and stormwater infrastructure. I want to let you know that I hear you, and I'm excited to work with you and our team to address these issues and ensure our neighborhoods are safe and resilient. With the same spirit of remaining connected to the community, residents in District 4 will start to receive an email newsletter once a month with updates on what's going on in District 4. I want to tell Casey and CMR and Christine Legal, thank you so much for helping us get this out and make sure that the residents in District 4 are aware of everything that's going on and all the good things that are happening in our community. On Saturday, I had the pleasure of participating in Navy Days. It was an incredible event celebrating the men and women of our armed forces. And as the wife of a veteran, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who worked tirelessly to honor those who protect and serve our freedom. Your efforts really made this an amazing celebration. Last week, my team, Melanie Luna and T.S. Strickland, and I toured the GE facility. And wow, I mean, what an operation. That place is amazing. I was blown away by the workers' dedication to engagement and commitment to safety. Operations like this strengthen our local economy and really do showcase the talent that we have in Escambia County. I also want to take a minute to celebrate Hospitality Week, which was last week. It recognized the vital role that tourism plays in our community. And to everyone in the service industry, your hard work makes Escambia County a place where people want to come and visit. So thank you for your warm hospitality and for driving our economic success. Please join me in congratulating Matt Skipper on his recent promotion to Stormwater Division Manager. Matt's dedication and passion are evident in his positive impact that he makes in our community every day. So thank you from the residents of District 4 and everyone in Escambia County. Finally, this morning, I attended the Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony. It was a solemn reminder of the sacrifices made by our officers, and I want to thank Sheriff Chip Simmons for his outstanding leadership and dedication. To all our local law enforcement, thank you for your unwavering commitment to protect and to serve, for keeping our community safe, and for putting your lives on the line every day to ensure that we are secure. Your bravery does not go unnoticed. As we move through today's agenda, let's carry forward the spirit of community, collaboration, and gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hofberger. Just a couple items I better mention since Steve did my spouse, or I'll get in trouble. But I remember in 2011 when I got deployed down to Guantanamo Bay, and our 3 girls were in high school. And I was with the detainees, several of them from the mastermind of 9/11 and all that at that time. And they used to say it was easier for me down there than what she was dealing with at home. And the kids still joke about that in D.C. But I'm blessed to have a spouse that's been with me for close to 24 years with my service and put up with a lot of nonsense that we had to go through. And any spouse out there in the military, you understand that when you have to leave and you have to go away and the kids are stuck with one parent, it's always tough. Moving on, last night we had a town hall kind of charrette at Lexington Terrace for the South Navy Boulevard project. We had about 120 people show up. It was, when we started out, it was really crowded. I want to thank HDR and Mary, Max Rogers, you did a great job. The citizens that came out and put in their input, it was really a great event, and I think there's a lot of hope out there. I want to mention this morning, and today's kind of been an odd day for me because between the memorial at the sheriff where we recognized the 15 fallen and the two K9 dogs, which I think it meant a lot to the sheriff to have the whole board there. That's why we changed this meeting time. I thought a little bit about, sometimes when you're sitting there and you're going through the memorial service and you're kind of wondering, you go back, and I had a reflection period of something that came in my mind from when I was a nurse in Oakland. And those 15 people that lost their life, they lost it pretty quickly, right? In a gunshot wound. And then today after that, last time I mentioned here, I went to Captain Brady's funeral. Commissioner Stroberg was there, former Commissioner Dixon was there. And his situation was totally different. He had a very, very long life, lived to 95, but for 6 years, 1 month, and 13 days, he didn't know if he was going to live another day. Remarkable story you just can't put together. But I started thinking about, the difference in where we are. And there was a lady that had lung cancer, and I was in my early 20s, and she liked to live vicariously through me because she was dying and hear stories. And she said something to me one day. She goes, when you're alive, you don't think about these things, but when you're dying, you have one wish, and that one wish is to live another day. And she's right. And today was that day we had that reflection period for me where you need it. It's a cleansing to say, what's your priorities, right? And I'm grateful to be here with this board. I like our board. I like the staff that we serve next to that works for us every day. And I'm just grateful to be here with everyone, and thank you for letting me be here, and I hope you reflect today on some of the things we did in the community in your own life. That's all I have to say. All right, let's go ahead to having a motion to adopt or ratify the proclamations.
Ooh, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on.
Second, I'll go after this. Mike. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll do that. Okay, we'll do that.
We'll go ahead and vote on it, Mike, and then I'll go.
That's fine. You want to do that and then
That's
do
fine,
seven?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
We got a
We
motion.
got a
and a second.
presentation, so you want to go
Yeah.
take the motion?
Steve,
and then go back to the presentation?
That's what we'll do. So we had a motion second,
Yeah.
please vote. Okay, that's for the proclamations. Let's go back to 7 for the presentation of the plaque for Deborah Truckee. Sorry about that, Commissioner Berry. Thank you. Sorry, ma'am.
Debbie, how are you?
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's with great honor that I'm able to recognize my friend Debbie Trokey. This is recognizing 7 years of service on a certain board, but those of us that have been in office for a little while are familiar with Debbie's advocacy for people of all abilities for the whole 12 or 13 years of mine and Lumen's service. And I appreciate your friendship, and it's nice to have you as a constituent out in Molino. So Debbie served for the last 7 years on the Northwest Florida Health Services Council, and kind of served through some transitions through that. That council saw some transitions during that time frame, and I think they've come out a much better body than they were when you went on the board. And that's what we would all hope through our service, whether it's on our board or this council or other boards that you're on, is that you, whenever you do inevitably leave the board, you leave it in a better place than you found it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really, you all should be recognized because every time, well, poor Steve, I beg to him first because I'm in his area. But all of you have come forward and helped people in Escambia County out. You have a great employer program here as OJTs for vocational rehabilitation. You've given money for Beds for Babies, trying to decrease our infant mortality rate. You've been to NAS when we had an employer party for them because they were recognized as an outstanding employer for vocational rehabilitation. But there are so many things that you have helped with. And Lumen, when you talk about the teen program, that is just an outstanding program. I've met with the neighborhood service people, and they are outstanding people, really, and helping us out with that. So really, you're the ones that should be rewarded for everything that you do for our county because it is outstanding. And when I go to Steve and say, could you do this for St. Elizabeth's Church out in Molino? He says, yeah, I can support that little 100-year-old church, So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Deborah, let me say for you, Deborah, thank you, and I serve, and we have an issue coming up with Children's Trust. Your work on infant mortality, it's wonderful because we hadn't moved the needle like we should, and you can't have school readiness, you can't have pre-K, you can't have any of that when you have the disproportionate amount of infant mortality that particularly happens in black and brown neighborhoods.
It's a serious problem
It's
for
very
black women.
serious.
It really, black families.
It is. And so, thank you, Deborah. I'll tell you, I'm going to continue, whatever board I serve on, to support that. And I hope that, quite frankly, I hope that you guys come to the trust to ask for more money for infant mortality rate because it's real. Kids never get to after school and daycare and summer programs and all these great programs if they never.
You got to get them out of
Right, yeah.
ICU first.
Absolutely. And you do a great job, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I forgot one thing in my comments as Eric Gilmore, if you come up to do the EMS. I just want to thank Congressman Petronas. He had given the Brady family citation that was read yesterday on the U.S. House and the Congress, and that was very kind, and the family was very, very thankful for that. Eric, if you'd like to come up and we can do the Emergency Medical Service Week.
Come on, everybody. So we're given a proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week. These men and women in EMS work tirelessly day in and day out. Long hours, working past their 12-hour cutoff to make sure that no call goes unanswered. I can tell you that where we've been when I started as Public Safety Director and how far we've come, I am extremely proud of the work that we put into this organization, and now having Chief Watts on board and what he's brought to the table as far as how we're accomplishing things, and the help from Jamie Higdon and the group back there ordering our ambulances and getting the equipment we need all the way to the board here. It is a true team effort, even though we're honoring the EMS people, but it takes all of us, and I appreciate the work that y'all have done to recognize the needs that we have, to make sure we get what we need, to the plans put into place, to getting the equipment, and to the men and women who actually run those calls. So it goes a long way. I appreciate it. Having said that, 1974, President Gerald Ford established Emergency Medical Services Week to recognize EMS personnel for the important work they do in our nation's communities. This year, Escambia County will celebrate EMS Week May 18th through the 24th. EMS Week, We Care for Everyone is the theme. For the period of January 1st through December 31st, 2024, the men and women of Escambia County EMS responded to 81,000 calls. That's unheard of. We're not as a metro area like Miami-Dade or Tampa or those big areas, but we run just as many calls as they do with less manpower. So our manpower really get out there and hustle. So I appreciate that. They stand ready to provide critical care, advanced life support, basic life support, bariatric transports to our residents and visitors 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Every day, Escambia County EMS provides a vital public service that ensures our residents and visitors visitors have access to quality emergency care, which dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience a sudden illness and injury. The men and women of Escambia County EMS have certainly risen to many challenges they faced, even if it meant spending countless hours away from their families and friends. During Emergency Medical Services Week, we have the opportunity to recognize our local EMS heroes for their unwavering commitment to serving our community. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida declares the week of May 18th through May 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week to honor the men and women of Escambia County Emergency Medical Services. Mike Kohler, Chair, Ashley Hoffberger, Vice Chair, Steve Strogerberg, District 1, Lumen May, District 3, Stephen Berry, District 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Hey, Chief Watts, you should say something.
Come on, Chief Watts.
Not, I'm going to give you some accolades.
He's good at talking. Come on.
I just want to say thank you. It's been an interesting first 10 months as chief. We've overcome a lot of things with this agency. I think there's a lot of potential here, and we're going to continue to move forward. It's been a wonderful experience working through some of the challenges we've had, but some of the major growth that we've experienced as well. And that's thankful to everyone who works day in and day out to serve the citizens and visitors of the county, as well as everybody who's behind the scenes and up front here that helps make it all happen. So I appreciate the support, and we thank you for that.
Well, I want to thank you guys. There's no one that has more hope and feel the security when someone's dying. And you're the guys that are getting those people to a definitive health care. And I know how important that is and how it's a difference between life and death almost every day. I know you guys see that. Most people here don't realize that, but I know you do. And I know you've got a lot of stories that you've been, places you've been at. Because I used to like when they'd come into the ER and there's always some good stories. But thank you so much for what you do. I know this board is so committed to what you do and trying to have great emergency services for our county. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Come on, Elvis. Come on, Joey. No problem, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it, fellas. Thank y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, Eric, don't go anywhere. Okay, you got the, okay, so we're going to do beach safety, right?
Absolutely, beach safety. My beach safety people coming, talking about special people. These are special people. No, I'm thinking. I want to be like these guys when I grow up. Work at the beach? Come on, man, this is great. I got to tell you, when I took over public safety, I knew that much about beach lifeguards or anything like that. I got education from this man right here. Thank goodness he was here. Jake and AJ, they took me to school as well. I have learned so much about it, and I am proud of this group. I knew fire services. I knew emergency medical services. I knew EM. I knew dispatch pretty decent. But this group had to actually train me up because I had no idea what I was getting into with this group. So, but I do appreciate these guys because they do a valuable service out there at the beach to protect our residents and our visitors, to make sure they're having a good time because, as Dave says all the time, the beach is luring. It's nice. It's a pretty day. You're having a great day, and the next moment, it's gone wrong, and it flips on you just like that. And these men and women are there to take care of that situation. So we're discussing Beach Safety Week with National Beach Safety Week to make awareness because our Gulf waters, while they are inviting, they're still rip currents. They're still dangerous. It's not a bathtub or a swimming pool, so it's not like they can just close the pool down and say everybody get out because people travel a lot of miles to get here and they want to get their money's worth. So, whereas the beautiful coastal and inland beaches of Florida represent a world-renowned recreation resource, each year millions of Florida residents and visitors alike are drawn to the beaches for water and beach activities. The aquatic environment has dangers, particularly rip currents, that can be effectively managed through public awareness and the vigilance and professionalism of the lifeguards for reasons of public safety, and annual reminders of the joys and hazards associated with the aquatic environment are appropriate for the commitment of the busy summer beach season. Florida residents and visitors alike must remember to never swim alone, always swim near a lifeguard, never drink alcohol before swimming, respect the power of the surf, and learn to swim. Now for be it proclaimed, the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida does hereby declare the week of May 19th through May 26, 2025 as National Beach Safety Week. And Escambia County urges all people using our beaches to enjoy themselves at the beach this year while taking appropriate measures to protect themselves and their children. Mike Kohler, Chair, Ashley Hoffberger, Vice Chair, Steve Strohberger, District 1, Lumen May, District 3, Stephen Berry, District 5. These men and women, I can't tell you, it's not quantifiable how many pre-events they do by just riding the beaches, talking to our visitors. If they don't get out there and make face-to-face contact, talk to them, and talk safety all day long. So it's untold how many times they have prevented something by the actions that they take. And they are a young group that they hire, a lot of high school students, a lot of college students, and the level of professionalism that those young people bring to Escambia County, I just can't talk highly enough about it. I'm proud to represent this group, and I'm proud to do a beach safety week for them. Dave, you got anything you want to add?
Well, thank you, Board. And I say I'm blessed with the opportunity to work with some really outstanding individuals who put on a positive face for Escambia County in public safety. And we're going into 100 days of summer. We're ready, and we're going to have a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you all for what you do.
That's fine. Thank you, buddy. Thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you again. Alan and Judy, will you join me at the podium? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, I'll read the proclamation. This is one of our small businesses in District 2 that got awarded for their just a great service they do, and we'll read the citation. But I want to thank you, Walker. Thank you for recognizing them and letting the county be involved with this. And I think the city recognized you as well, didn't they? Yeah, so good job. That's awesome. Okay, whereas AJ Market and Ice Cream at Southtown and local Pensacola business has been recognized with a 2025 Outstanding Independent Award by Convenience Store News, which recognizes single-store owners and small chains serving their communities and successfully creating a space for themselves in a variety of industries. And whereas Alan and Judy founded AJ's Market and Ice Cream at Southtown after moving from California to Pensacola to spend their retirement years in the Emerald Coast. And whereas with Alan's entrepreneurial background and Judy's experience in retail and financial management, they create a venue that combined a general store and a traditional ice cream parlor that fulfills the needs for delicious treats and daily essentials for local residents and visitors alike. And whereas Alan and Judy are also committed to making a positive impact in the local community by contributing a % of AJ's monthly sales to support public schools through Escambia County Public Schools Foundation, and are known to host fundraisers to assist students and teachers in the county. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, hereby commend and congratulate AJ Market and Ice Cream at Southtown for receiving the 2025 Outstanding Independent Award, and encourages residents to continue to support local businesses that make our communities thrive and grow. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida, Mike Kohler, Chair, District 2, Ashley Hoffberger, Vice Chair, District 4, Steve Strohberger, District 1, Lumen May, District 3, and Steve Berry, District 5. Congratulations, and thank you so much. I guess I gotta take the board for ice cream after the meeting, huh?
Ice cream for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah, please feel free to make a comment.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to live in the greatest place on earth, and the award really goes to our staff at AJ's. They're the ones that made us and made it great. And come on in and have some ice cream.
Judy, do you want to say anything? No, I'm good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thaddeus, are you in the audience? You come on up and do the proclamation here. No, this one wasn't? Okay. So,
Thank you, Chair. Proclamation. Whereas Wanda Borkin has dedicated 27 years of exceptional service as a professional bus operator for Escambia County Area Transit, consistently exemplifying excellence in customer service through her safe driving, courtesy dominion, and also steadfast work ethic in serving her colleagues, superiors, and citizens of Escambia County. And whereas Ms. Wanda Borkins began her career in 1985 as a part-time surveyor collecting ridership data, during that period, she also contributed her to the customer service department, engaging and directly with passengers and expanding her skill set to include cash handling, community outreach, dispatch operation, and employee engagement. And whereas on May 26, 1998, Ms. Wanda Borkin commenced her full-time role as a bus operator, skillfully transporting Escambia County's most valuable assets, its citizens. Throughout her remarkable tenure, she has adopted to numerous technological advancements in transit operation, mastering systems such as Double Maps, Zonar, and most recently, Passio, to include safety and efficiency in every trip. And whereas Ms. Wanda Borkins actively participate in scheduling training programs to refine her driving skills and to stay accurate with departmental procedures involving local and federal traffic laws. And whereas she has set extraordinary standards for public service and transportation safety, where driven over 823,680 miles over her 22-year career without a single accident. And whereas throughout her 27-year career, Ms. Wanda Borkin has driven more than 1,010,080 miles, demonstrating unparalleled dedication and consistency and professionalism. And whereas Wanda Borkins consistently goes above and beyond her duties, frequently volunteering for additional shifts, overtime, ensuring the consistency and reliable service for the community. And whereas on the University of West Florida campus and throughout Escambia County, Ms. Borkin has known for her dependability, compassion, engaging personality, and unwavering commitment on both her professionalism and the people she served. Now there be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, hereby recognize and commend Wanda Borkins for her outstanding achievements and her 27 years of dedication and service, and extends their deepest appreciation for her lasting contributions to the public transit of Escambia County community. Board of County Commissioners, Michael Kohler, Chair, District 1, Ashley Huffberger, Vice Chair, District 4, Steve Stroberger, District 1, Lumen J. May, District 3, and Steve Berry, District 5. I want to say thank you, Ms. Wanda Borkins, for your hard work, dedication, and adding your part-time with Escambia County and your full-time dedication. Ms. Wanda has dedicated nearly 40 years of her life to Escambia County Area Transit. So, Ms. Wanda, I want to thank you, thank the board, commissioners, for the women and men like Ms. Wanda Borkins that keeps the county moving. And also I want to thank you for your support in allowing Escambia County to implement and also new and innovative, cost-effective measure ways on transporting our citizens. So board, thank you, and thank you, Ms. Wanda.
First, I want to thank God for allowing me to complete the test that I took on. And I want to thank each one of you all for being a part of that too. When I started out driving, I wanted to be a truck driver. But I didn't make it to the truck driving, so I became a school bus driver. I left there and came to ECAT, and I worked there, and they begged me to become a driver, and that's where I started at. I went to work at 4:25 in the morning. I left my kids at home. I had 5 kids. I lost my oldest son in 2018. He's drowned out at the beach, but I have 4. And I left home at 4 in the morning, 4 a.m. When I came back home, it was dark. I did that until the system changed. So we had a chance to go to work when it's daylight. So to each one, I tell everybody, when you get a job that you like and do it well. Serving the public, you got to have a great attitude, because there's sometimes when we board people on that bus, you don't know what their minds are on, what they've been through, what they're going through. Some of them just got kicked out of a house. So we are their first people they see, and sometimes the last. So I like to thank everybody. And I want to say I did a good job, and I thank God for letting me do a good job.
Amen. Thank you for your service, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Wanda, Ms. Wanda,
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you. I mean, there are some people that were instrumental when I was first elected that helped me to understand mass transit, and helped me understand how important it was to the civil rights movement. And that was you and DeWitt and Willie Carter. And so, you educated me, informed me, stayed on me, and quite frankly made me a better commissioner, but you made me more committed to helping people who are disadvantaged. And so that's what you've done, and you've made me more conscious and more aware than ever of how important transportation is to the least of them. And thank you for your service to the least of them. I will always be thankful for the words of wisdom, encouragement, and information that you continue to give to me. And just know that as I sit here, I'm going to continue to fight for public transportation as long as I'm in this seat. So thank you, Ms. Wanda. You are a shero in our community. Thank you so much.
Well, I would have to give my hat off to Ms. Matilda Townsend. She was the first lady that drove a Escambia County area transit bus, first female lady. And she opened doors for us to come in, and I just thank God for her.
Yep, without Ms. Stanberry, without you, Ms. Wanda,
Yep.
I mean, you wouldn't have a Deborah Chandler today.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so you're a trailblazer, you're a history maker. They may not want to record history, but you are history.
All
So
right,
thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's move on. Did the clerk's office receive proof of publication for the public hearing on the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs.
Okay. That motion?
Move to waive the reading.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. We're at public hearing 131, public hearing to consider request for exemption for the Escambia County Children's Trust. We have 2 speakers. Is
Mr.
Doc-
Chairman, before you have the speakers, I just want to fully disclose that I'm very fortunate to sit on the Children's Trust. I've consulted with counsel, in no way will I near a benefit. So I think that, Madam Counsel, I could vote either way.
Yes.
Yes, but certainly want to acknowledge that I am a sitting member of the Children's Trust.
Thank you, Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Northrup, are you in the audience? Please come up. And on deck is Meredith Bush.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I guess my first question is the time. Okay, there we go. I'm Dr. Rex Northup, and I have the pleasure of currently serving as the chair for the Escambia Children's Trust. Rather than phrasing this in the somewhat negative here in the request for an exemption, would rather put it towards the more positive and what we are actually asking from the trust is to consider the entering into an interlocal agreement that would simply allow us to ensure, those of us on the board of the Children's Trust, to ensure that these monies are going towards their intended purpose. When this whole trust was voted on by the citizens of Escambia County, and that trust was established specifically with the idea by the voters to fund programs and fund systems and services that would improve the lives and well-being of children. As we look around the board, I've been looking at this. Children have no vote. They have very little voice. They contribute to no political action committee. As we look around the room here, there are none of them here today. So the voice that they have depends on us advocating for them. I'm retired as a 37-year provider of pediatric services here as a lifelong citizen of Escambia County. Served here for 37 years providing pediatric critical care, pulmonary services, hospice and palliative services. Also had the privilege of serving as the Director of Children's Medical Services for the 10 counties throughout the Panhandle, where we were charged in ensuring access to and provision of services to children with special health care. I'm familiar with what you all deal with every day, as was mentioned in the invocation, having limited funding and more services to need those funds. Children exceed that to the multifold over anything that we as adults do, again, because of the problems I mentioned earlier. They depend on us to advocate for them, to procure services for them, and what we are proposing, and I have speakers here behind me that will speak in more detail on this, is the entering into an interlocal agreement that would allow these funds that have been self-inflicted, if you will, on the voters, by the voters of Escambia County, specifically to go towards the provision of children's services, and would request that that interlocal agreement that we will be presenting be strongly and respectfully considered by you all as the County Commission, so that those funds would go towards what they were voted and approved for. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Meredith Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meredith Bush, 125 East Intendencia. I am counsel for the trust. As you know, we're here for the exemption request allowed in statute. Happy to take any questions. Ms. Cannon is present as well. We believe it's a win-win for the county and the trust to enter into an interlocal. I believe the intent is funding your youth employment program, and again, we're happy to address any concerns.
Thank you, Meredith. Board, is there any discussion? I need to disclose a few things that have come up.
Yeah, I mean, I have some comments, but I mean, certainly could yield to you, Mr. Chairman, and take your leadership.
Well, as you know, at the last meeting, we were told that the Children's Trust was going to have our topic on their agenda. I pulled your agenda, wasn't on there. Nothing about what we were talked about last time. So that was a little bit discouraging for me, because that's what you said you were going to do. And your Children's Trust, you said you were going, all your money was encumbered. This is on your website. On the first page, if you go to paragraph 2, you have $2.2 million. It's not. That's your data, not mine. Last year, this board voted 5-0 to support this for CRAs. The sheriff has made it very clear to me that he unequivocally supports this money going to CRAs. Last week at the first responders, we talked about it. I asked him today at the Sheriff's Memorial if I could use his own words, and he said, absolutely, Mike. So the sheriff would like to see this to go for public safety. Everyone in this room supports children. We're at an impasse on if we agree just programs. The math is 1.9% of your budget. You've funded, on your own data, not mine, historically, the Pensacola CRA for $561,209. That was on your March 25th. You also funded Parks and Recs in 2023. And I am confused on why you won't support Escambia County in a more positive way. Come on up.
Thank you. So I see you're pulling things off our website, which is great. Since we have met last, we've had our updated financials that were presented at our meeting already this week. So what you're seeing is newly encumbered unencumbered dollars that are being recaptured from contracts that are not being spent down. So that is a rolling number. So what we do as a board is meet and determine what we're going to do based on data or needs with those dollars. So it's always going to be a new pot if the providers that we currently have encumbered with contract are not spending down. Does that, am I making sense? So you'll see that. We update that monthly because there was not transparency around
So,
that before I was told.
Lindsay, I
So-
appreciate that. So we'll go to your third paragraph.
Sure.
This is your third paragraph.
Sure.
So your third paragraph says that if we were going to pay the county $690,000, and that was for 22 and 23, but right now we're working to, in a sense, not have that go against our liability. But you put that in your document that you were considering paying us. That's your third paragraph.
The auditors that we have working with us, because there was a request, have had us put that in arrears or reserves because there was a threatened lawsuit, so it became a liability. The CRAs also, from the city perspective, although we're working through a new initiative with them, they have told us what the amount would be if they request these dollars, which is the $560,000 that you're seeing there. And we have to create a liability for that as well.
Okay.
So it's more accounting kind of things, but they're there. I can't move money around myself. Like, that has to be board action.
How much of your budget goes for staffing?
Our percentage is about 9% of the budget.
I was told a little higher, but that's it.
Well, it fluctuates depending on when we have to pay the tax collector and when those dollars actually come in, because we don't get a lump sum. So they come in like quarterly. So it fluctuates. On shorter months, you'll have less drawdown from providers, so it looks differently. And then other months, you'll have more drawdown because some are 31 days, some are 28 days. Some days they have, and like in summer months, they have full days, like 8-hour days, and so they'll draw down a lot more money in the summer. Another fluctuating item in there. But my board charged me with being at 10% or under, and I've delivered on that.
Okay. So my concern is, and we met,
Sure.
right? And I appreciate that. And our lawyers met with you and one of your board members.
Oh, that
And
was a
our-
staff member, sorry.
Well,
It was a staff member.
A staff member.
Sure.
And we agreed, or at least on our side, that we clearly have state statute on our side, that we can use this. You guys disagree, but we agree with that. Other counties in the state use it. So the state statute's wrong, the sheriff's wrong, the board that voted 5-0 is wrong. We want 1.9% to help the lowest income communities in Escambia County. And you continue to want to push back and fight us. I don't understand this. I don't know why I'm in this conversation. I voted for the Children's Trust. I never in my life thought I'd be fighting for low-income kids for dimes. It's unbelievable to me. But I obviously, I appreciate some of the things you're doing, but we have a responsibility for all the citizens of this county, and they deserve equal representation from the ECT, and I don't think that's what's happening.
Well, again, Mr. Chair, ECT has an obligation to the children in the county, first of all. We are not attempting to be oppositional, trying to be at all disrespectful to any members of this committee, to the adults of the area or whatever. We got our orders, and that is what we take on very seriously. Other members of the board include, in addition to Commissioner May, the directors of the school board. We've got the judges.
Dr.
from the
Northup,
judicial
I appreciate it, but I didn't ask you to come back up.
Okay.
We listened to you. I appreciate your comments, but we're not there right now. You had your chance to speak. We heard it. Thank you.
You were asking questions.
I was
My
asking
attempt was
Lindsay a
to answer
question, and I understand this. And the thing is, I'm at an impasse. I'm with the sheriff. I believe in public safety. I think it's a pivotal.
I do as well.
I think it's part of Maslow's hierarchy.
I agree as well.
And you guys can't do infrastructure. And we are talking nickels out of a $25 million budget, and you'd rather fight the Board of County Commissioners, the sheriff, deny the statute, and I just don't understand it.
Well, that's-
And you paid last year because you admitted that it was right.
No,
So you just paid for no reason?
we did pay last year, and the
Yeah, you
entirety
did.
of it went to infrastructure.
Madam Attorney, they
rather
paid
than-
last year, correct?
They paid for the 2023 tax year
Yeah.
in full. This is for the 2024 tax year. They have not paid any.
Right. So you paid the last year's
Yes,
to the
and the
county.
entirety of that money went to infrastructure, which is not what the citizens voted on when they voted.
I voted for
to
it,
pass
and I
the
can tell you, I
Children's
voted for a whole different approach. And so when you say the citizens didn't vote, I voted for the trust fund. So you can't speak for every citizen in Escambia County. You can't. You can only speak for what you believe. I believe differently. I believe in public safety. So you can't say the citizens voted for that. The statute says we're entitled to it. The sheriff thinks we're entitled to it. Our attorneys think that we're entitled to it. You've paid it. I'm not making facts up. I didn't come to fight the ECT.
Well, and nor is our intent to invite the board. What our intent would be, and we would welcome the opportunity to discuss this with you all in more detail. One of my wise father's first comments was seek first to understand and then be understood. And it is our intent to have you all truly understand where the board of the Children's Trust is coming from in an effort that we would offer collaboration between both bodies in order that the children of the county, I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said, Mr.
Dr.
Cole.
Northup, you're a pediatrician, I'm a nurse. I know you know play's important. I know you know safety's important.
Yes,
I know you know
I do.
street lights in poor communities are important.
Yes.
I know you know that.
I do.
We're not asking for much here.
I know those funds exist elsewhere in the county and through other means than they exist for the support of children's services.
Well, I guess we're at an impasse.
Mr. Chairman, and I do sit on the Children's Trust, and I will say this, and I'm sure you voted for it.
I did.
I mean, but there was no, there was no politician that put his face on collateral material other than me. You wasn't on this board. I'm the only elected official that publicly supported this, and many people were doing elections, and they were afraid to support it. My district supported it close to 90% because we do have poverty, we do have infant mortality, we do have shootings and killings, we do have children who are not being able to eat, and so it's important to give you your credit and to give you your respect as a chairman. It was not you who led the charge for using those CRA dollars for lights and cameras. It was myself and Chip.
I know.
It was myself and Chip Simmons, and we did this because children had to lay down at Montclair Elementary School because there were shootings in the parks. And the sheriff said, I can't patrol it. I need cameras, I need lights, and I need all those type of things. It was not funded by the sheriff, and, we found CRA dollars and we paid for it. I mean, and we got cameras over into Montclair. And so I have tried in my role as a trust member and as a member of this board to find consensus, because I think that's important. I think that it's incumbent upon all of us, when you have taxpayer dollars, to be able to work together. I've said this publicly, from the trust board to this board. This conversation should not have happened. I mean, I think the mayor's here. We're having a conversation in regards to CRA dollars, and we have not come to a conclusion of exactly what the mayor in the city of Pensacola is going to do. I mean, and so it's been unfortunate that we've had bad press and that we're holding money for children. I simply offered a compromise, and certainly you and I are not going to get into a adversarial dialogue because I agree with you. I mean, even at the service providers, I mean, I think at the ECT we're at 9%. Linda, where are we on the providers? What percentage do they pay in indirect costs, consulting, salaries from? So it's 15%. And so it's probably 70%, or what's the percentage that goes directly to children? That would be good information. That would be good information to know, because my proposal, Mike, and I agree with you, and we can have this dialogue. I simply said that we have a unique program in our summer employment program that we have children 15 to 18, that all the money should go. And so I talked to Lindsay today, and I think we probably have some board members here that are not supportive of giving all 3 years for the summer employment program. Now, that's where I'm probably going to have an impasse, with the board, and that if it's really for children, if we really care about children, and we have a unique program, don't say we're going to give me 1 year and not give me all of the years to support a program that I know that's needed. And I know you made a compromise motion of 1 year for infrastructure, which, I will try to come to a consensus. But for me, and Lindsay and I've had this conversation, and Lindsay has been very clear that the board vote was not to fund the summer employment program, to only give it 1 year. It's ridiculous for us to have this conversation as a trust or as a county to do 1 year. If we do this year, December 31st, we're coming back to have another conversation about what we're going to do if we do a 1 year interlocal. Let's do what's right for children, not what's right for the trust board, the county board. Do what's right for children. And for me, the right thing to do for children is to make sure that every one of those dollars in that CRA goes directly to children, not salaries, not consultants, not marketing, not advertising. What's unique about this, every dime goes to children. And that's what I'm going to support. And I know me and you are not on the same page on that, but I'm going to support that. And that may not make the trust people happy, and it may not make this board happy, but some kind of way you have to have a negotiation where we compromise and we meet each other in the middle. And so I would yield to hear what my colleagues say, but if I had to make a motion, that would be my motion. And if council, Meredith say that, that's not something that they're interested in, you'll probably find me voting for you to take the 1 year. Mike, honestly, you'll
So
find
your
me
motion's
supporting
3
you.
years for the summer program, but nothing for
Oh,
CRA?
youth program.
Youth program.
And so this is no disrespect to my friends at the city. The city has got over $1 million for their after school and
What's the
summer
total
programs.
on that, Clara? Do you know, Commissioner?
Well, Claire can come and talk about it. So that would be, I don't know what, Lindsay would know the total amount. For all 3 years.
So for 175 children in the summer youth employment program, I think it was around 702,000 combined for those.
But what's
So
the
it's
total of the 3 years?
What, 3 years of the set, well, you,
Well,
21?
the 2 years plus this year, what's the total amount?
Are you talking 21, are you talking about that would be 690,000, a little bit more than that, is for the last 2 years. This year is 495,000. And that's the one we asked for the exemption on, is that.
So do you not
And it's
have any
not to-
intention to
it's not
pay
to
the
not-
22 and 23, even though you put in there?
I
What's your
can't-
intention?
We would need to meet as a board. They already voted
Well,
last
you met yesterday, remember, and you were told you would put on the
We-
agenda and you didn't, so what's the
We
intention?
put it under the legal report, and we had all the conversation there. No one made a motion to change that vote.
Who put your agenda together?
Ms. Alma,
So she didn't know that you told us at the last meeting you'd put it on your agenda for yesterday?
yeah, it was, and it was presented. It's under legal.
Oh, I didn't see it on
So,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
it's legal. So Meredith presents during that. She has a standing agenda item where we discuss anything legal that's come up.
All right.
So,
Commissioner
so
Hofberger?
we had discussion about it. The discussion was that we were still wanting to work in partnership. It's completely within your purview to say, no, we don't want to work with you on this. We don't want to fund the youth employment program. We'd rather recapture the dollars and use them in the CRAs. That's what happened last year. Our attempt as a group is to work in partnership like other CSCs do with their county. I know this didn't start out well, and nobody knew what they were doing here with the CSC. I was not here. I was running a different operation. But I'm here now, and we're wanting to work together. This summer youth employment program was an opportunity. It doesn't have to be the only thing we do. If you're wanting to serve kids in other capacities throughout the county, let us know what that is. We can help support. We can do it. It could be other summer programming. It could be after-school programming, whatever. That's just what our board desires, is a relationship to help with that so that our dollars are going for what the voters intended and what we believe our statute commands us to do.
Okay.
So,
And Mike,
so it's not to be adversarial.
Excuse
Sorry,
me, Lindsay,
it's
you
not.
can continue to speak. And so, for me, Lindsay, you can stay up there because you may respond. And so, Mike, where I find it in past, you're absolutely right. Lexington Terrace, Marino Court, Wedgewood, where, we had 12 people to get killed and to get shot that we've just taken over, and that we really don't have funding for after-school programs, or we had, 2 people to get killed. 12, 13 people to get shot. We are running those type of programs. And so it's a trust, it's Escambia County. And so that's why I believe that we could put those dollars in those safe neighborhoods and those CRAs to make sure that they go to children. I think, Lindsay, where you probably lose my vote is that when the trust takes a position, that the trust may be the only entity that knows what's good for our children when we have programs that are going. And so if we really, in the spirit of wanting to help children, we wouldn't just say it's going to be a 1 year. It would be that all the dollars that came in CRAs would go in those CRAs to help those children who are at most adversely affected. And so I would, Meredith, you can respond, or Allison, help me to see why wouldn't that be a possible. And I'm completely opposite of where Commissioner Kohler is. I mean, it's for infrastructure, which I very much believe that legally you'll withstand the challenge, Commissioner Kohler, if that's where you go. But I would just, Meredith, want to know what's the obstacle since we're helping children, and that's the spirit of what we're saying is that we want to go out and help children.
Thank you, Commissioner. I understand. If I may briefly respond, I think the focus on 1 year is because statutorily it's an annual imposition of the TIF, the TIF. So there's nothing to prohibit if the County Commission wants to agree to a 3-year exemption, a future exemption of years, then we wouldn't have to come back every year that you request, but every year that you request the funds, I believe and understand from the trust, we would be back requesting an exemption that the funds be used for programs. And so at this point in time, legally, we're only addressing the $495,000 for this year and requesting an exemption on that. So it would be a 1-year ask and a 1-year interlocal. But if that interlocal were to say, the county's not going to request, for X number of years, this dollar amount, and so for X number of years, the trust is going to operate county programming for children using these funds. Now, as far as the first 2 years, you are correct. The board, the trust board has taken a position that it's defensible not to pay those based on the untimely ask. But those dollars are not currently designated for programming, and the statute does require that they be spent for children's programming. There's nothing to prohibit the county and the trust from, working out some agreement as to those funds. But we're not before you today saying, here's 3 years of funding in exchange for an agreement. It's a very narrow legal question. It's a 1-year exemption that we're before you on the technically
Meredith,
today.
I brought this up last time, and I just want to put the numbers out. We're asking for 1.9%, and I asked the board to go back and look at paying the first 2 years for the summer programs. You still haven't paid that. It's in your plan that you're thinking about it if you don't get there. I don't know what that means. I don't go to your board meetings, but I can read what you put in your documents. And I firmly believe in the CRA because I need cameras at Lexington Terrace and other parks. The sheriff agrees with that. We did it last year. We have a massive problem with kids at Marino Court that are some of the poorest kids next to the only failing school that have homeless drug addicts that go to that park, and there's no security other than we have to call the sheriff. I just think it's just hard to believe. I just can't believe I'm fighting this hard to actually have kids have a little bit of safety. It's unbelievable, man, to me. But the board will be where it's at.
Mike and Commissioner Holberg, I'll give you the mic because I think we monopolized. I want you to, publicly say that I concur and understand you. Meredith, I will say to you, and to our legal, we have the will to do what is right. I mean, we can't say that we're going to come here for 1 year and help children for 1 year and not do it in perpetuity because December 31st, we're going to be here in 4-5 more months. I think, we've had the discussion long enough and not with the city for legal to just work it out. I think you understand the will of, I don't know where.
Well, we have to vote on this. Allison will tell you that.
I'm happy to work with Allison.
We have to vote.
I don't care about having to vote. I'm trying. I'm not afraid to have a vote. I'm trying to get a clarification because I'll make an amendment to any vote that I want to make. I'm simply saying that we agree, probably other than you. I don't know. I can't speak to other people. That let's give the money to the children. But I just don't believe Meredith, Lindsay, and to the board, Stephen, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say, well, we're going to give the money to the children for 1 year, and for the other 2 years, we're not going to give it. I mean, we made a hard stance. That really puts me in a tough position to say, okay, we'll keep that year, and then we end up in a legal battle because they've taken a hard position. If we really believe in the spirit of what we said, it's simple. Let's do a 5-year agreement. Let's make sure we get those 3 years, the future years that's going to end in December 31st, and put all the money toward children directly. No admin costs, no indirect costs, no consulting costs, no salary costs. To me, this is a win-win for our community. And so that's my position. And Mike, I'll yield. And Mike,
Well, I'm
I
going to
know where
let
you
the
are,
other
but I'll
commissioners make
yield.
comments. So Commissioner Hopper, your light was on first.
Right. I would agree. We have a huge problem with not having enough money allocated for public safety. Sadly, Escambia County allocates only 9% of our budget to public safety, which is the lowest in the state. So I think that's a problem that we all need to address during budget season. My question to you guys is, and I think there was some confusion because last meeting, I think you and I thought we were going to take this year's tax money and the previous 2 years' tax money, and then we were going to get a guarantee for the youth employment program for the next 3 years. That's what we thought. Okay. And then what Lindsay, I think, is saying now is we can't really look at it in the rears, but what we can do is this year and the next 2 years, we could do a contract or an interlocal for that. Or am I missing something?
Well, I think the arrears part is the problem because we can look forward, and looking forward actually increases your budget, if you will. Like, I want you to look at last year was 443. This year's 495. So when I look at investing in kids, that's more investment in kids, right, going forward, than looking backwards. But our board, when we went to meet, we gave them all of the different discussions and options. These are the 4 different things that kind of came out of that meeting. There was no movement to go backwards. There is still a desire to fund the programs that you want to fund in partnership. And like I said, you guys can vote that down and say, we don't want to do it. We'll figure out our own children's programming. I don't think we're the only game in town, and I'm really very much one of those people that works in partnership with other people that are experts. I'm not the expert in it, but I am here to do innovative programming. It's the one thing I can do well. So what I will say is this is really up to you all how you want to partner with us or not on this particular project. We're still all a part of this county, and we all have kids and we care about them. So one way or another, we're going to work together. But we got to start somewhere. We haven't started anywhere. We started with we won't fund your people anymore, go to the trust. And I wasn't there, but that's what happened. We're going to not fund ELC. We're not going to fund Chain Reaction. We're not going to fund JWBS. We're not going to fund any of that. Go to the trust. And so the trust picked that up and even enriched some of those programs. And so, but that was never a negotiation. That was never a phone call. And quite frankly, none of this has been that. It's just been emails and demands. And so although that is discouraging, we're up here taking all these very hard questions in an intimidating situation saying, we want to work together. What can we do? But if you don't want to do that, it's okay. I mean,
So in an ideal world, knowing that the taxes for 2021 and then the 2 years that are hanging out in the rears, that we would like to recoup some of that invested in the community through the children's program, the employment program, what would be an ideal situation to invest that money in our youth employment program and also have a 3 to 5 year contract?
So I think it can be accomplished. I think we're looking at 2 separate things. So I think if we separate and say, for this year, we grant the exemption and, take that $495 and work with summer youth employment or whatever your program is. Separately, at the same time, if the county says, trust, we're not going to sue you for everybody has a legal opinion about whether or not that, but so we're not going to sue you to seek these funds. Everybody knows these funds need to be spent for children. There's a need in the county to spend these funds for children's programming. And I don't know, since there's no actual litigation, that it needs to be a formal settlement type agreement, but in an agreement not to collect it as tax dollars for the CRA, but we're going to use these funds for children's programming. We work out an interlocal or some form of agreement for the expenditure of those funds. I, as the attorney, can't speak for the board as to what those terms and conditions would be. But I believe, based on my conversations and what's been presented here today, that there's a willingness from the trust to work collaboratively. And I think the terms of that agreement could be such that the county grants a 5-year exemption, so we're not here every year seeking an exemption from these dollars, that the county doesn't collect them, or when in sending the yearly notice, acknowledges that the exemption applies. I have not spoken to the county attorney, though, about whether or not that future exemption would be possible, or if we have to show up every.
And Meredith, the reason I said we can work it out, because we're trying to get a happy compromise here. The money is in reserve. It's not like you spent the CRA money.
Correct.
The money is
It's gonna
there.
be held.
And it's being held. It's simply saying, how do we work it out in good spirit to give the money to children? I mean, we've far spent too much time on this. I mean, in legal fees. I mean, and that's really what's happened. What, are we going to go to court for, $600,000? I mean, to me, in the spirit of it, we should be able to work it out with the legal. But, I mean, I would be unprepared and unwilling to make a vote on 1 year without a clear understanding where we're going to go. And I think what I'm hearing, and Stephanie's here, Dr. Northup's here, I know they believe in spending money on children. I mean, I'm not even supporting spending it on staffing. I'm supporting spending the money directly on something that's unique for children. And brother Mike, and brother, it's Lexington Terrace, and I'm not saying you should spend it all on summer youth. That's where I was, and Lindsay and I talked today. I recognize that she had a meeting with Claire. Spend it on youth. And we're doing nothing different than the city of Pensacola. The city of Pensacola is coming after CRA dollars. The city of Pensacola was also funded for a program. I salute our staff and Leroy Williams in the work that they do. Hundreds and hundreds of children are being helped every day in Escambia County, and Escambia County has never gotten any funding from the Children's Trust. So when you say we denied people, we continue to fund our youth programs, our after-school programs, our summer program without any trust dollars. When you had a trust fund that was intended to help children, we found CRA dollars, we found general revenue dollars to do that. Here's an opportunity for us to be able to do more for children. And so I would just want to figure that out before I make a vote or before I make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Strober, do you have a comment? No, Steve's been waiting. Commissioner Strober, do you have a comment?
Oh, so you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're going to ask a question or just saw your light was on.
No, I wasn't going to ask a question. I just wanted to make a statement. I'm not sure why we're talking about suing the Children's Trust. I don't know why we'd even have to come to that. But we have a lot of unfunded CRA projects in Brownsville, Barrancas, Oaksfield, Warrington, Palafox. There's a boatload of them here. And they all support safe play for family recreation, safe access for children, provides safety, security cameras, traffic calming, enhanced safety, improves walkability for safety, improving recreation for safety. I think that's a good spend. And I think you'd spend it that way if you could, but you can't. But we can. So I think we should. And I'm ready to make a motion when the discussion's over.
Okay, make a motion.
No,
I don't have any more comments. I'd like to.
And again, I would just like to continue the discussion, Mr. Chair, before there's a motion being made, and obviously I indicated that I'd make a motion. And I certainly respect Commissioner Stroberger where you are, and I know your passion for children. And Mike, I know your passion, and I share it. Because there's more murders, there's more shootings, there's more killings in my district probably than any other district. And I know the need for lights, cameras, and sidewalks in those things. And the reason I would yield because of just the spirit of the Children's Trust, of the constituents, of where they want to be. And I think that, Commissioner Kohler, my motion is a compromise motion. The trust is sitting here saying that they're not going to give us 2 years. That's what they're saying.
Well, can I comment on that?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, and I'll give you the mic back. I'm simply saying that let's have a motion that we spend, the 2 previous years, the 3rd year, and have a 5-year contract, because we're going to be back here in December, that we will spend that money on children and figure out how we can reallocate some dollars to do sidewalks. If that's not the desire and the wish of this board, I'm not going to be one that's going to, be adversarial, but I do serve on the trust board, and I think that there is a consensus, and obviously Lindsay can't speak for the board, but I would say any motion that I made would certainly be conditional on all 3 of those years and getting that money to invest in human capital and helping in the children. So I agree with you. There's nothing that you've said wrong, and quite frankly, there's nothing that the chairman has said wrong. I agree with you, and as I said previously, I led the charge. So I'll yield,
Mr.
and
Mayor,
I will support whatever. I'd love to have a consensus because it's for children. So I don't want to have a bickering with my colleagues, because what you both are saying is important and critical to the life safety of our children.
Commissioner May, I think if the trust would just honor what they put in their own document, and you paid the $690,000 that you have, and then you gave this year to the CRA for public safety, which the sheriff wants, you'd at least get 2 years for the summer program, Commissioner May. And then we'd have the public safety piece, and I don't see why.
You can't use that if we take it for the CRAs for the programming unless
This is in the rears.
but unless those go to the CRAs and unless those kids come from the CRA area, then you can't use it for
No,
the
no, no.
youth employment, right?
I don't think so. Is that right, Allison?
If we deny the waiver, then they, in theory, will have to pay the 2024 tax year CRA money. It's about $500,000. It will have to go into the geographical CRAs and be spent according to the CRA statutes.
What about the 22 and 23? Could we earmark that if it came back in for the summer program for?
So the 2021 tax year and the 2022 tax year, when they should have paid but didn't, has, I believe, already been an action item before the Children's Trust Board, and they have declined to pay it. I think in order to address those 2 years, it would obligate the Children's Trust Board to rescind their previous action to address that. The 2023 tax year was paid in full. The
Right.
2024 tax year technically is the only item before you today. If you are denying their waiver, you need to adopt your staff findings. We'll send a demand letter tomorrow that says, hey, you still have this outstanding bill, you need to pay it. If you want to grant the waiver, you could give X amount of time for us to work out an interlocal with them or bring the issue back to you to reconsider your vote. That's what
But Allison, that's not good governance. And I mean, the good governance is simply, if someone made a mistake and didn't invoice them, and they're saying, Lindsay, and I sit on that board, if we're not paying it because we said somebody didn't invoice them, it's always the right time to do the right thing.
That is essentially the position that
Well,
your
that's a
board-
bad position.
You're on the board.
I know it. But you see what I'm
Yeah, thank you,
advocating for.
Commissioner
And,
May.
you're the lawyer.
Please
and so
comment
that's
why
why
you're
I'm
not
saying.
paying.
That's why I'm not going to pass this foolishness today. Okay, that's why I'm not going to pass it. Because if that's the board, if that's the trust board's position, that we're only not paying you because you forgot to invoice them, that's not ethical. And so if it's the right thing to do, and I agree, I serve on that board, and that's why I'm saying to you, I'm not going to let anybody force me into a position today to vote for 1 year when they all know that it's the right thing to go ahead and fund it all for the children. If that's the case, then you know what? I'm going to yield and let the chairman make whatever vote he wants to make. I'm saying that we are stewards of taxpayer dollars. There's an opportunity, Lindsay, to work this out. Without going back and forth, without putting a pistol to someone's ear and saying that we're going to make a decision today. That would be the wrong decision because we're going to end up fighting for the previous 2 years. That's all I'm saying, Allison.
Okay,
I'm just trying to figure out how do we work
I
that
don't
out.
think there's any question that the Children's Trust has taken the legal position that we sat on our rights, so you're out of luck. You don't get those 2 years.
It's wrong. And that's what lawyers get paid.
I agree with you, but that's the position they've taken.
Commissioner Stroberger, I think you have your light on. Allison, do you have anything else to add? You're off? Okay, Commissioner Stroberger.
So, we don't need an interlocal. I don't know why we're talking about an I don't even know why we're negotiating this. Why are we negotiating this at all? It's not operating income, it's tax revenue. And we can use it the way we need to. It's got to go in the CRAs. That's where it's got to go. So let's just do that.
You guys are all aware that we have money in LOST that we could use for these projects, right? Like, if it's that important for your districts, not only do we have it in LOST money, but you have it in your discretionary funds.
This is a statutory,
I'm just saying.
But Ashley's right on that, Mike, in that if we take those 3 years, we can hire kids from any district we want because the trust has to write a check for all of that amount. Once we bring that money into a CRA, it gets divvied out among all 6 or 7 CRAs. That's not going to make an impact. It's not even going to be enough money to buy a camera and a light and monitor it. Honestly, I get where you're going. It's not. If you take $400,000 and you divvy it up, $80,000 doesn't even get us any sidewalks. It doesn't make a difference. We have to figure out.
so why is it such a big deal then?
Well, that's the point is that if we have them give us all 3 years, we can use that money to hire children in all 5 districts. But you're right. I mean, I'm not going to swap spit for the rest of the day because I'm ready to go. I mean, but.
All right,
it
is there a motion, or are we moving forward?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we conditionally ask for all 3 years of the funding to go directly to youth programs, summer youth, after-school programs here at the city. I mean at the city, at Escambia County. That's my motion.
And nothing
Okay.
for the CRAs?
So you're,
If that's what you want, Mike. I mean,
I'm asking, man, it's fair. You got your cameras, why can't poor kids in Lexington Terrace get theirs? I mean, is their skin any
I
different?
support you. Yeah, absolutely, I support
Oh,
you.
man.
I mean, they don't work in Montclair. I mean, if you want to pull some of the money for cameras, I was just trying to get to a happy compromise, Mr. Chairman. I mean, what Allison is simply saying that the money has to be divvied up. Is that what I'm saying? And to every CRA.
absolutely. If the money is, if we are denying the waiver and the money is paid, it has to go into the CRAs that assess those TIFs. So it is going to have to be divvied out per each CRA's.
But that's exactly what
base
happened last
years.
year. I had a conversation with Claire about this. This is exactly what they did last year. This is nothing different.
So, Claire, how much money would each CRA get?
It was
Each is going to be different depending on the
I know,
base
but that's what I
year.
want. I want to know what the number is. Because I want to make sure Commissioner Kohler get his cameras, because he deserves his cameras.
Man, I'll invite you to the picnic over there, man. You can hang out with my people.
Hey, if you come to Montclair, we shoot them out.
I ain't interested.
I mean, they don't last long over there in Montclair, baby. We shoot them out. We don't really like those
I
cameras.
don't have the exact numbers, but we have 9 CRAs, so that $495,000 or whatever amount we're collecting is going to be distributed over 9 CRAs.
Well, here comes Stephen. I mean, we don't know the numbers. I mean,
Stephen has
yeah,
the exact
accounting
numbers
is the
for
exact
each
science. I mean, it's
CRA.
not hypothetical.
Well, it's in the backup, I think, what you put in, Claire, I believe.
You're welcome. All right, Commissioners, I will go down the list of how much of that will go into each CRA. So Warrington.
I'm sorry, is this for this year or for
this
the
would be
previous
for
2
the
years?
2024.
Okay, thank you.
This year.
104, and I'll just kind of keep it rounded, but 104,000 would go to Warrington. Palafox, 64,000. Brownsville, 46,000. Atwood, 33,000. Cantonment, 27,000. Inglewood, 28,000. Brancas, 35,000. Inslee, 85,000. Oakfield, 70,000.
We can't keep losing money.
Roughly speaking.
Repeat that, Steph.
Are you kidding?
No, I want to know who gets 28,000. Can't tell me gets 28,000.
Correct. No, I'm sorry. Inglewood, 20.
Oh, Inglewood. Oh.
28,000.
That's
and
even more
Cantonment
problematic.
Was 27,000.
So out of this TIF, that's what we get, and it would be restricted to only spending that amount of money there.
The specific question that has to be addressed by statute is whether we are granting or denying their waiver request for the 2024 tax year, which would be those amounts that he just read.
Allison, I got a different question, and I kind of alluded to this the other day. It's obvious this board's struggling with this. I know the voters are struggling with it. is there a way for us to put this back on the ballot in 2026 as a referendum to see if the people actually want it?
Yes, there is. So the ballot that went to the voters, and I think it was in the pandemic year, 2020, gave the voters, authorized this Children's Trust to have 10 years of taxing authority. So you're approximately halfway through the current lifespan of this board. I would therefore not advise any interlocal more than 5 years. That would be the lifespan of the board.
So if he put it back on the ballot for 20, I mean.
Oh, I think we'd have to vote. I'm just asking.
No, I mean, I want point of clarity. I mean, I get the dose. I mean, everybody's cutting. I mean, it may not be CRA, it may not be even have alarm when everything's cut. He could put this back on the ballot in 2026 and vote before the 10-year period?
Yes. So that's one, is it has a natural lifespan that ends
Wow.
in 5 more years. Number 2 is the state legislature could pass a special act to dissolve it. Number 3 would be that this board could pass an ordinance to dissolve the Children's Trust, but it has to be conditioned on a referendum of the voters. So it would have no authority to dissolve it unless that was also blessed by a majority vote of the voters of Escambia County, which would probably fall to one of the elections in 2026.
And Mike, and
Do
that's
we
why-
still have a motion on the table?
No, no one's
don't
put a
think you
motion
made a
out yet.
I did.
You did. Can you
Oh.
repeat
I
your motion?
did. I'll make it again. I'll withdraw it.
Okay.
I'll withdraw it. So, Mike, and that's what I'm trying to get, because if we put this on the ballot, dude, it'd fail. I mean, as much company, it would fail.
Oh, I don't know.
And we
I
would
don't
we
know.
would not be helping children. That's why I'm trying to figure out what's the compromise of what we're trying to do.
I just was
I
curious
mean-
what the legal options are. That's all I was kind of curious about. Because I'm getting pushback that from a lot of folks in my neighborhood can't believe that we're arguing over this little money
I know.
for poor people. I can't believe it. I can't honestly believe we spent probably 40 minutes on this right now, just trying to figure out how to get poor kids cameras. It's just hard to believe, man, that the board is that dug in over there. But man, I would just pass that and moved on down the road, man.
So, Allison, so you're saying, and Commissioner Holberg, and I'll put my motion back on the floor, and Lindsay, my putting this motion on the floor without an answer from the trust board is going to be a challenge for me, because all council is saying that we can do is vote on this 1 year,
No.
on this 1 year of exemption.
No.
And so I would like to vote on, how can we get to where we vote on all 3 years?
The one thing I need that you must address by statute is the waiver request that's on the floor. If the board wants to say that it is willing to grant the waiver for 2024 and also conditionally grant the waiver either going forward, or that you want to go back in time and try to readdress past years with the Children's Trust Board, you could say you're conditioning that waiver on coming back at either the next meeting or within a month if you have to have a Children's Trust meeting, whenever they meet, I don't know. But you could condition your granting of the waiver on a successfully negotiated interlocal agreement, coming back to you, set a date, and then we'll have another opportunity to either adopt a successfully negotiated interlocal, or we're going to have to go back to voting on the denial of the waiver for the 2024 tax year. Then we separately need to address if you want to go in the past, or they'll have to wait till next tax year to deal with 2025. Does that
Commissioner
make
May.
sense?
Yes, sir.
They can commit today if they want to work with us to give us the $695,000 for the summer youth program, and we can use the CRA for this year, and depending on what neighborhood services comes up next year, we may be able to invoke, not have the waiver. But, I mean, I feel like that's where we're at. And they haven't even paid it, and you've said that you think it's wrong. Well, I think it's wrong, too. Christopher Stroberger, do you have a motion?
Just want to share with you all that we do have a 5-year plan, so Allison was talking about that, looking at it financially. We'll be bringing our board together in June, July,
Yeah.
to look at that full financial picture. Those dollars will be part of that discussion, because if we aren't voted back in, and it doesn't go on the ballot before then, we would need to budget to a $0 balance for 2030. So our board has to make some definite decisions. We've discussed that about what we want to fund
So Lindsay, you
going
have all,
forward. So
you
we
have the
could
money
use
from
this
you have the money
time,
from the
is what
last
I'm
2 years,
saying.
right? You have the money that was withheld by the board. You have that money in the bank, correct?
We have to restrict it per our auditors because of the threat of lawsuit.
right,
So
so-
it's sitting there.
It's in it. So the money's there. I think we deserve the money to bring toward children, and I agree, and I think we're there. I would make a motion that we grant a waiver to get the funds for youth programs for this year, and conditionally that we get the previous 2 years.
If that's your motion, then we need to set a time when it's going to come back with a successfully negotiated interlocal agreement, because if we can't negotiate it out, we're going to have to go back to figuring out what the decision is on the 2024 request.
So question on that motion, is that a 1-year interlocal or a 5-year interlocal you're asking for?
I would say, a 4-year, because it's 2 years that's in the rear. There's a year that we're voting on now, and December 31st, we'll have 4 years. So
Okay,
minimum
I'll
of 4
second that
years,
motion.
because we won't come back here in December, that we would take all 4 years to give every dollar to youth programs at Escambia County.
All right, so then that tentatively, we'd be granting them a waiver for the next tax year as well. So they'd get the waiver in arrears for 21 and 22. They'd get it for the 2024, which is the issue before you, and they would tentatively be getting it for next year as well.
Why would we agree to that anyways?
Well,
I mean, that's crazy.
if we're going to get the two, Mike, if we don't agree to that, then you're going to put a referendum and it's going to get voted, up or down, or we're going to end up in a lawsuit. So I'm trying to collect the 2 years of arrears without having to come back here on December 31st.
Commissioner Berry, do you have a comment? I see your lights on, I'm sorry.
I've got a question. I was going to ask Lindsay a question while she was up there. So you made a comment earlier, and I made a note to myself. And I understand you're saying, less than 10% is your staff, your admin staff. The phrase "cost to raise a dollar." I mean, you're not raising a dollar. I mean, it comes in, but I understand what you're saying. Less than 10%. But you also made a comment that 15 to 20%. So your board is evaluating your recipients, and you're telling our board that the personnel and soft costs related with the programs that you're funding are limited to 15 to 20% is personnel and salaries. Is that what you're saying?
Indirect is limited at 15%.
Okay,
So because some of that's operating, it's mainly operating expense. So any administrative expense that the providers have are limited to 15%. They can't go above that. And most of them don't. They have a lower rate than that.
Okay, and I'm not on your board, so I'm not sure how you define these terms. So you're saying that your salary, the personnel and salaries that the recipients are, the way that they're utilizing your dollars is going to be limited to 20%, 15 to, that, or on average, you're saying 15 to 20% is going towards personnel and services.
I'd have to look at that. I think that's what Commissioner May was asking, is what the breakdown is related to salaries and actual services over those 42 contracts, and we can get that for you. But I don't know it off the top of my head. But I know when it comes to administration, which is like that overhead part of it, we don't allow more than 15%. Am I answering your question correctly? Sorry.
Well, if what you're saying is that you believe that your recipients are spending no more than 20% of the funds that you're giving them on salaries and soft costs or admin and salaries, if that's what you're saying, then yeah, you're answering my question.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
No, because I don't know that number for sure, but I can get that for you.
Okay. And I see in some of the awards that you allocate to ABC. I'm not identifying one particular recipient, and then they have the ability to grant those funds to other recipients. Is that not an issue with your board? Is that something that's ever come up for discussion?
It depends on the particular project. So there are some that hire what we call subrecipients, which are 1099, like teachers that are coming in and doing tutoring after school, so there's some of that. Our only major project that I can think of off the top of my head is Healthy Schools Escambia, which is the one where there's 10 partners together, and United Way runs that, and they do subcontract out aftercare, tutoring and things like that.
So for the line items in your financials, where it says sub-grant recipients, you're saying that's 1099 personnel, that's not other, you're an entity, you're making an award to an entity. You're saying that they're not granting it to other entities. You're saying that that's where they're utilizing contract labor? That's what they're calling sub-grants?
Yes, for the most part, yes, sir.
Okay.
Lindsay, that would be a part of the 20%. And I guess, Commissioner Berry,
I'd
I
have
don't know
to look.
exactly where
I
you're
don't know
going. I
that
guess I'm
yet.
trying to figure out what's the direct to children, what percentage? Is it 20% for salaries and insurance and consultants and sub-grants and accounting? I mean, what's that percentage number?
Well, accounting is going to be a line item related to an audit, but someone that does your general accounting is going to be in their indirect. So they're not a direct person working with the program, but they are somebody that's got to process the invoices, make sure all of that's done correctly. So that's in that indirect rate that the providers can bill up to 15% for, which are the people that are essential to run to keep the program going, but are not actually offering direct services to children. Those would be captured under personnel, the ones that are offering direct services to children.
So all that in the professional development, I'm sorry, Commissioner Berry. Sure. I mean, you raised something, obviously I sit on the board, I don't know. Like professional development or outside, that's all within 20%. You capture all of that within 20%. Oh, you don't know?
No, that's a separate line item if there's professional development. We have a set of line items, and we've got our fiscal manual. We can show you guys what a budget looks like. That's not a problem.
Okay. So Commissioner, your motion where you're saying waive the 2 years in arrears as well as the current year, but are you saying waive that under the assumption that we come to some agreement? Is that what you're saying? I didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and if I need to withdraw it, Steve, and let Commissioner Strober
Allison,
make a.
you want to say something? Chime in.
And all those indirect costs, I mean, those are good questions, Steve, and I think we should know those answers. My motion was conditional, and I think Commissioner Holberger seconded, that we get the previous 2 years that's been indicated by Ms. Lindsay and Meredith that our board decided to not give. This current year that we're talking about, and we have another year that ends in December 31st.
That we collect those first 2 years?
That we had not collected those.
Yeah, I don't think they've indicated any interest in paying those. Is that?
Well, I'm not willing to make the motion then. That's why I was making it conditional that they would do those funds.
But we're overcommitting something they haven't done.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think. Ashland and I were
Why
just
would
trying
we
to get
put
the-
ourselves at risk when they haven't even committed to that?
Dr. Northup, I mean, I know you can't speak for the board. Can you come, Dr. Northup, Ms. Chairman? Dr. Northup, could you come forward?
Yeah, you are. He asked you up, sir.
I've asked for permission. So, I mean, Dr. Northup, I think where you see the chairman said that we're conflicted, I'm trying to make a conditional motion that the trust would rescind their action of the previous 2 years to commit those funds back, as well as this current year and the December 31st. And I think what I've heard from Commissioner Bayer and Commissioner Kohler, you guys have not committed, and so it would be irresponsible for me to make that motion. So I know you can't speak for the board, but I would just like to get your position. Would that be something that, because this would be conditional, I mean, I would.
Yes, and you are correct that I would be speaking on behalf of myself, but I believe that it would be something that the board would certainly be willing to consider. The reluctance before was the idea of these monies going, as they did last year, to strictly infrastructure. And that we would prefer to see these dollars go towards some services in the way of the youth employment program, something of that sort, and would then wonder, as Ms. Huffberger brought up, of utilizing other funding that exists within the county right at this time, or taking monies that would be offset by the dollars from the Children's Trust to then utilize those dollars that already exist within the county to address some of these infrastructure needs. But that the funding that is coming through the Children's Trust, in our belief and our understanding, is intended to go towards provision of children's services and needs. And that we just have a differing of opinion there, that the things like the cameras and the street lights and those things are not within that intended purpose, but that we could collaborate here, work on an agreement that would take these dollars, expend those towards something as you have brought up, or as Lindsay has said, other programming within the county budget that meets that broader definition of children's services and programming, and then allocate or allow you all to allocate those dollars towards some of these other more infrastructure type budgets and that type of thing. And yes, I would be very supportive of bringing that back to the board, where they would then be able to vote on that, to hear the reasoning, hear part of this discussion we've had here today.
Thank you, Dr. Northup. Commissioner May, I hope you'll consider this. So what if we were to deny the motion and go forward with the CRA under the conditions that their board comes back with a 3-year plan? If not, we would put in the CRA at the next board meeting, because that would make them actually have to move on the board. And if they do that, then we could retract the CRA dollars. It's fair for both people. I'm conceding that it'd go for the summer youth program. If they don't want to pay the 3 years, then we get it for public safety.
Okay.
I mean,
No, it's fine. Whatever y'all do.
so you'll retract your motion and I
whatever y'all
can
do.
pass the gavel?
I mean, yeah.
My
Whatever
only
y'all do.
concern with that, like I understand, and I think we may be able to get there, is that if you deny the waiver, then those funds would have to go to the CRA. I don't know, it may be better if we table this, go back to the ECT board with a 3-year, idea or offer for a firm, something to address
The
this
motion,
back.
Meredith, would be conditional that your board moves forward with the summer youth program, and then that would be the motion. And if you guys decided not to, because you've known about this for a while, you haven't moved, then it would go in the CRA. And I think that's fair for our board. It meets what Commissioner May's intent is, and it forces your board to support the summer youth program for 3 years.
Or youth programs. And Mike, I don't want to just be my idea. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get a happy medium between all
So,
of my colleagues.
can I
And
make
so,
the
mean,
motion if you
But Mike,
retract
Mike, can I ask you a question? Because we do,
Yeah.
wait, what if we did, I think Allison's about to say something. What if we did table it? And because I agree, they can't speak for the board if they came back.
No, but
at the
they'll have a
next
meeting, and they'll know they'll be under the condition if they don't move forward, they have to go with the CRA. So we're in the best position. You get what you want if they change. If they don't, the CRs get funded.
So just to clarify, we're going to say, hey, go back to your board, figure out the interlocal agreement based on the summer youth program. If we don't have.
Or youth programs, because he wants money at Lexington Terrace. So youth programs. So make sure he's taken care of.
But the thing is, we've been dealing with this now for 2 years. And don't take this wrong, your board has not had an interest in moving forward with the $695,000. We have a responsibility at this point, I think, to challenge your board under the conditions that if you don't go back and do it, the county's in the position that you put the money in the CRA. And I'm willing to concede that, Lumen. I'm willing to concede that if they come back with the interlocal, we turn away the CRA. I don't know if they want to give up the money because the CRA is lower. But at least in that situation, we get the youth programs. If not, it's on them to make the decision. And that would support the sheriff. I'm willing to concede. I think it's a fair compromise.
Mr. Chairman, and I'm open. I'd love to hear from legal because what Meredith has just said, Attorney Bush, that we can't do it that way procedurally. If we can do that procedurally, or if we could table it,
Allison,
Mike,
can we do that?
I would certainly, be in support of that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Allison?
Procedurally, you absolutely can vote to deny the requested waiver, but please adopt your staff findings that are in your
Neighborhood services,
backup,
yeah.
and then say that we.
But I thought it was not the intent to deny it.
It's the intent to deny with the motion that they go back and do what they said that they're going to do for the summer youth program.
But once you deny it, it does put them under an obligation that they're going to have to pay that money into the CRA.
Right, but Allison, if they come back at their next meeting, because I'm not sure they're going to have the will to do it. They haven't done it yet. I mean, Commissioner Berry's right.
Can you explain why you guys didn't vote on this at your last meeting? Because I think we're all a little disheartened on that, but I'm sure there's a background story. Can you share that with us?
Sure. It was discussed at the last board meeting. There simply wasn't will or direction from the board to make any change to the exemption request or to address the prior decision on the 2 years. So it was simply left to request that this board grant the exemption, that we enter into the interlocal, for the programs. And maybe I'm not understanding what the current intent is. If you deny the request, then those funds would go to the CRAs.
Right. I understand that. And I'm going to make a motion here in a minute, and I'll make it clear, very clear, that the trust, if they come back within the next meeting to fund the first 2 years that they didn't, and this year for the summer youth program, then and they pay that, then the CRA wouldn't go into effect.
So then you would grant the waiver?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We would grant it under the conditions. I'm not sure your board's going to do that. They haven't done it yet. I think we have to have some strings attached here. So that's where I'm at.
Well, Mike, it's conditional, and so, Mike, and I'll support you. I'll back off. I have a motion on the floor. You want me to back off? I'll back off. But if they pay into the CRA, that money goes into the CRA. I don't know how you back that money. I don't know how you back that money back out.
No.
Versus us.
We are not going to spend that money before they have their next meeting. We can put an earmark that their board could go back and see if they want to do the interlocal with the summer youth programs. And if they decide they don't want to because they haven't acted on it, then it goes to CRA. And that is not a complicated motion.
And so, point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. So what if they decide not to? I mean,
Then it goes to CRA, and that's on them. They may not.
And so then you don't, and what I would say that my motion is a better motion than your motion. I'm making the motion conditional that we're going to get the 2 years. You're making a motion that simply says that they can give it to us or they don't have to. And if they don't give it to us, we'll just leave the money in the CRA, and then we leave 2 years.
Well, it's all conditional. They haven't given it to us, Commissioner May.
Why don't we just continue the hearing long enough to allow their board the opportunity to meet and see if they can pull that off? And then if not, we can finish this conversation and grant or deny the requested waiver.
So give them another month?
I would say July 10th board meeting, because June 5th is going to be too fast a turnaround time for them to meet and feed anything back to us. That would be what I would suggest. Otherwise, you're going to be in a situation where you've either granted or denied it, and then it may, once they have to pay it, they're going to be under a statutory
They
obligation.
haven't paid us in a year and a half. Come on.
Mike,
Berry.
Mike, I would with you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Berry. If they didn't, I made it very clear that I'm landing with you. I mean,
if they haven't paid it in a year.
I think you've, I mean, the seriousness of, that the board takes the issue, I think is clear, and I think apparently there are some difficulties if we actually took the action to vote to deny and then tried to come back, if they come forward with an agreement, and then came back to grant the waiver, to basically undo, if we took the action today to deny the waiver request, and then something good happens, which, we'll see. But then we would be needing to undo the action that we took today to grant the waiver afterwards, because we've come to some agreement. If we just table it, and I mean,
All right, I'm willing to do
we've
that
spent a long time.
under the assumption if they don't come back, I would ask the board support the CRA.
And what you and Commissioner May said.
You have my full support, Mike.
Y'all sounded like you finally kind of meshed to something you can both live with.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Now, y'all can both live with it. That means I can live with it too. So I'm good with that. But
So you guys know, come back with a 3-year summer youth program, and you'll get what you're interlocal. If not, then the
And Mike,
board's
I
gonna
was
vote for
just
the CRA.
in good spirit, and thank you, Commissioner Holberger, for your support. I'm trying to get to where I can be supporting you and Commissioner Stroberger, because what you're saying is nothing wrong with what you're saying. And so if we had a continuance to bring it back, I think Lindsay's indicated to me that sometimes our board doesn't have the will, the trust board doesn't have the will to do that. If the trust board doesn't have the will to do it, Mike, you'll find me seconding your motion. You may find me seconding your motion for a referendum.
Yeah, that was a healthy
Because
discussion.
if people deny to do something for children, then I'm not on board.
Okay.
To keep it tidy, can we have a motion to continue?
Yeah, I
the
can make, or
hearing
Lumen, you want
to
to make
July
a,
the
well, here,
10th?
I'll just make.
Yeah, you make whatever you want to make, Mike.
Let's make a
I'm gonna yield it
motion to
you.
continue this to the July 10th meeting, and at that time, hopefully, we will have an interlocal that will support 3 years for summer youth programs.
Second.
Please vote. All right. Lumen, did you vote? Oh, okay. Hesitantly 5-0, thank you. And Lindsay and the board, I want you to know that I'm not against you. We just differ on a couple things. Don't think that we have different ideas on safety. So
Lindsay,
thank you very much.
Lindsay, let me ask you a question. I think I know where Commissioner Berry was going because I think it's rich. Are there some organizations that are well beyond 20% in salary, wages, benefits, staff travel, and sub-grants to other organizations? Can you take a look at that for our next meeting?
I know that Tammy has it. She had to leave because this ran really long. But Tammy has all that breakdown for you, I mean, already. So that's not going to be anything to get that to you guys.
It would be beneficial, I think, for this board, because I don't know it, because I sit on the board, and, I want to be a responsible board member. I've heard some
You're going to have to
questions
open
here.
your emails from me then.
Yeah, so, but if we could, if we could figure that out, I mean, all
We've
the
got it.
indirect, I mean,
We've
what
got
we're
it.
paying for
Tammy has the
consultants.
breakdown. She knows exactly what that is because we ask those same questions internally as well. So.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and appreciate coming down here. I know these are tough conversations. If we could move on to the clerk and comptroller's report.
Yeah, so there's 3 recommendations on the clerk and comptroller's report. The first concerns the investment report. The second concerns a filing of a document. And the third concerns minutes and reports prepared by clerk to the board.
Okay.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 3-0 with Commissioner Hofberger and Commissioner Strober off the dais. Where are we at here? So we moved all 3 items. We're at the GMR? Okay. On GMR 1-1, we have 1 speaker. It's Chris Kerb. If he'd like to, Horst?
Yes, sir. We have the public hearing for a floodplain management adoption, Chapter 6 of the Land Development Code to review and adopt.
Okay, like I said, there's 1 speaker, Chris Kerb. Is Chris in the, okay, Chris, come on up.
How y'all doing this evening? Do I get 6 minutes if I sign up for 1 and 2 and it's about the same thing?
You have 3 minutes, Chris. I'll pull you back up when we go to 1.2.
Hey, I got to pull it. You got to try it. I support this adoption of these flood zone maps, this floodplain management tool. However, I'd like to caution the public when making a decision on whether to buy flood insurance or not, because these maps do not reflect the reality and the perils of flooding. I know this because I worked 30 to 25 years for this county, and I've seen multiple locations where properties have flooded that are outside the high hazard flood zones, and they didn't have flood insurance. Matter of fact, y'all are buying out properties that are in flood zone X that have repetitive loss flooding in Bristol Park on 11 Mile Creek, which is a real good example. And these maps do not extend that floodplain up the hill very much. Pin Oak Drive is a good thing about these maps that are being adopted. By the way, they've been around since 2017 as preliminary maps. We're still using the 2006. So we need to go with and support the most current and available data. Oh, I think I've said that about NOAA Atlas 14 rainfall data. It's current and most available. I've been texting with Dee, one of those houses that y'all are buying out for repetitive loss. She's in Titusville looking for property. She's not buying a house in a flood zone X or in a high hazard flood zone. She's trying to buy one in a flood zone X. But the question is, will she flood? Well, unless she contacts the county and gets in touch with somebody knowledgeable, those flood zone maps are not going to let her know that she needs to get flood insurance or whether she should buy that house or not. Mackenzie Estates has no floodplain. The proposed Mackenzie Estates. It's not on those maps. Do I get 3 minutes on the next one?
Yeah, but we have to move this one, Chris, so thank you for your comments. All right, Horace?
Mr. Chairman, I move the 145 hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner May at the dais. Horace, we're on GM1.
The next item is 146, to review and adopt floodplain management, Santa Rosa Island Authority.
Okay, Chris Kerb, you're back up.
I appreciate that. In continuation, I actually directed Dee to First Street Foundation model. They do a lot better model evaluating risk in flooding than your FEMA, your federal agency, does. And they actually put out a model after Hurricane Debby. And in summary, 3/4 of the properties that flooded in Hurricane Debby were outside the designated flood hazard zones and were likely uninsured for flood loss. Many of those properties were constructed in spots seemingly far away from where the storm made landfall, including Sarasota, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina. That was the conclusion reached by the report from the First Street Foundation, a nonprofit organization that uses computer modeling and loss flood data to assess risk from storms. You see, your flood insurance rate maps don't use lost assessment data. The overall storms which made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane in the Big Bend stretched all over Florida, caused as much as $12 billion in damages in the southeast states and $9.7 billion outside the FEMA designated flood zones, high hazard flood zones. So why is that important to Escambia County? Well, you're fixing to adopt maps that's readily available. But that don't tell the whole story when people, your stakeholders, your citizens come in here and buy homes. If they don't really know that, hey, oh, I'm buying a house in Bristol Park that flooded in April 2014, Hurricane George and Hurricane Sally. And it's in a flood zone X. I think my point's made. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. There's no other speakers on GMR12. Do I have a motion to move it?
Move the one.
Okay, please vote. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Horace, we have no speakers on 3 and 4.
Yes, sir. The next item, 147, to review and adopt floodplain regulations for the building regulations.
Okay, a motion to approve GMR.
Move the 147.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
Yes, sir. The next item, 148, again, to review and adopt floodplain management ordinance for the building code regulations.
Move the 148.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Horace.
Yes, sir. The next item, 149, to review and adopt assign a compatible future land use category for opt-out requests.
I have one speaker, Mr. Buddy Page. If you're still in the audience, please come up. Is Buddy here? Come. Oh, you don't have any questions? So
He's the agent.
Okay, he's waving. Okay, so that's it. There's no further speakers. Do I have
Move
a
the
motion?
149 hearing.
Okay, please vote. Mr. Berry, you can vote. Okay, motion passes 5-0.
The next item is consent agenda, for June the 5th, 2025.
I move to consent, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, I think that's 5-0. That concludes the GMR report. We're at the county administrator report, Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 6 items on the technical public service consent agenda. There are no changes. There are no speakers.
I move the consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Budget and finance, Wes?
There are 27 items on the budget finance consent agenda. No changes and no speakers.
I move the administrator's report.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, please vote. All right, motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to note that 2-9 was a ratification of the fire union contract. With the ratification of that contract, all of your union contracts are buttoned up.
Wes, you should pat yourself on the back for that. I know the fire for public safety, that was a big one. But your leadership on that, I know it was tough, and with Justin and Nick, but I think we all had the intent, and Stefan, and that's a big one for the firefighters.
I can't
and
say
public
enough
safety.
about my supporting staff with Nikki Powell and Stefan and all of the subject matter experts of the different departments. It is a heavy lift, but I couldn't do it without them, and I appreciate them. And I appreciate the unions as well and their staff.
Thank you, and great win.
CAR 3-1, a discussion item concerning the fire MSBU. We have one speaker.
Wow, okay. Only one speaker. Gil Burgell, if you'd like to come up.
My name's Gil Burgle. I live at 13,000 Ogden Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32506. And I think on the MSBU's, y'all, it's not going to be fair to start picking and choosing on who's going to get the highest rates. I don't think the beaches get any better preference than they need to be. They're working as hard as they can. They got 2 stations out there. So they have 2 stations, but they need them during the summertime. That's it. If you're going to do an MSBU, you need to do it even across the board. Now, I live in Paradise Beach. I've been paying MSBUs for the last 7 years, and I don't even have a fire station. Period. That's terrible. And you're going to hear me come back up about the fire stations in a few minutes, too. And I worked for this, I was a firefighter for 45 years. I worked for the city of Pensacola for 30 years. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. This county did not look into things too well when they let that station die. That's the bottom line. Thank you for your time. I'll get back on the other one.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your comments. As the board knows, we had a pretty healthy discussion last meeting on MSBU, a little bit more speakers. I see Mike Burns in the audience here today. I don't know if everyone else got what Mike put together last night. Did you send it to everyone, Mike? Okay. I appreciate your efforts on that. There was, I think, 5 options. There were several options, if I remember right. I got it late because
I hadn't read what he sent. Obviously, I'm not willing to
and
vote
I don't mean
on
to
it,
call you up,
I'd
but I think
love
it's
to hear
worthwhile
what he
before we
said.
talk about the work the SRA is doing, and I'd like you to just share that with the board.
Hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. So, but anyway, I took a packet that we got information from Islanders, different people in the community, different ideas, different suggestions on how we might be able to approach fire safety on Pensacola Beach. I presented to them, asked them that they'd all take it home, try and digest it. If they had any questions or any ideas, if they'd bring those back together, and we'll have another discussion at our meeting on May the 28th, and hopefully come up with some resolution to help not only the people on Pensacola Beach, but Escambia County and all the residents in Escambia County.
Mike, I know you can't commit to your board, and I've had some discussions in my own mind with the county administrator and Stefan, and do you think that the SRA would be, depending on if we did a MSBU that was equal on the mainland, both for commercial and residential, that there would be a way to make up the differential for the firehouse? Do you think that's a plausible goal that SRA could get to?
Mike, I think anything's possible. I agree. I think Gil made a great presentation in his comments, being a firefighter for 30 years. I also want to thank Wes and Stefan and all the guys with the county that have been extremely helpful in providing us with information, to go forward. But I think our board's going to be willing to come up with something and work with this board. So like you said, something that's equal, something that's fair, something that can be applied across the board. We look forward to working with you.
Well, since our last meeting, obviously, I've had some decision space to think about this a little bit. Yesterday, we were at the TPO, and they talked about how many people were going to the beach. There was one month, they had over 50,000 people coming to the beach. I mean, it's like the whole city of Pensacola going to the beach. You know, I mean, that's crazy. And so you have to have services to, and I don't know what the right makeup is, but I think the beach, I'm leaning myself, as long as the residents that, you know, are out there pay the same as the city, or the mainland, I guess is the right word. But I do think that you guys need to come up with something to support all of that tourist that is on there, because that's a massive amount of people coming on the beach that need public safety.
It's a lot of people, and I know Wes likes to come out there on the weekends as well, and I've seen Stephen out there a time or two, and I know Ashley's probably like to get a suntan in the past, but that's what just happens, you know? I mean, at any time, we could have 5 times the amount of people on Pensacola Beach. We could go up to 250,000 people.
Yeah.
You're going to see in the next weekend or two that our numbers are going to go off the charts. You know, you see 25,000 people coming across the beach on a Saturday and on a Sunday. So, yeah, the numbers are going to go up. But I really think that the islanders, the residents, the commercial leaseholders are willing to work with the county. Once again, and I appreciate Stephen, everybody wants to be fair on this board. Everybody wants to be fair. And if everybody's treated fairly, I think the board's going to be glad to work with you guys, and we'll come up with a solution that works for all of us.
Well, I want to personally thank you for your leadership. This was a bold request. I had you come over and talk with Alice and our people, and honestly, I thought, oh, this guy's going to blow me off and not come back with anything, but you did right away, and I really appreciate you throwing some codes out that we can look at and see if any of them work, and you can get across the finish line with your board.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys, and we look forward to continue working with you. It's a great relationship.
Commissioner Hoff?
Yes, thank you so much, Mike. I really do appreciate it. Just to put some details on those numbers, 55 days out of last year, so 15% of the days of 2024, we had over 20,000 visitors to Pensacola Beach. 90% of those are locals.
I agree with you there, and also another thing that can be a little misleading on the numbers. If you go back and look at how many calls that our firehouse gets, last year I think the number of calls was 908 calls at Pensacola Beach.
For the whole year?
For the whole year, 908. And if you take those calls and you divide how many of those calls, 17% of those calls were fire. Wow. 83% of those calls were EMS and paramedics.
So you guys had 7 fires on the beach last year and 176 rescue/EMS calls.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
good business for Gulf Breeze Baptist, huh?
well, sometimes they take them there, sometimes they go to Baptist, Sacred Heart, depending on the situation. But you're right. But the thing is, there is a need on the beach. There is a need. And I think the beach residents, if they're treated fairly, and when I say beach residents, I mean both commercial and residential, and our temporary visitors. You know, you look at our visitors, they come to Pensacola Beach. The average stay on Pensacola Beach is 5 days. 5 days. So certain increases on people that come there for 5 days is less money than you'd spend for a nice cocktail at some restaurant or bar on Pensacola Beach. So I think, once again, our visitors, I think our residents and our commercial leaseholders are willing to help and work alongside the county commission and make sure that we come up with a solution.
Okay, Commissioner Barry? Oh, I thought.
No, I'm Commissioner.
Okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner Barry.
No, Mike, thanks. And I'd love to find the best route to the beach so I can go out there one day. Hadn't been out there before, but if you give me a good route, I'll show. But if we do
Need a ride, I'll come get you.
Need a ride. I'm probably get through Gulf Breeze, I will. But I think that it's critical when you talk about how many response calls you have, that you geofence other geographical areas to do a comparative analysis. To just say beach without taking other neighborhoods and geofencing it and saying this neighborhood, that neighborhood, with similar populations is, to me, not necessarily a fair comparison. So I'd love to see those numbers as well.
I appreciate that, Lumen, and I think you're correct, because we have 8.1 miles, but at the same time, we go into the national park on both ends. You know, our lifeguards go into the national parks on both ends.
Right.
And just a couple weeks ago, we had, you know, I'm not a Facebook guy. I'm not an Instagram guy. I'm an old guy. That's what
Right.
I am.
We
And
both
so
are.
I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. But, you know, we had, and Wes knows this, we had 9 calls that day. 9 calls.
And Mike, and no way I'm questioning. All I'm saying is simply, I could go to my colleague in the north and geofence 8 miles, and he would say, you know what, I ain't had any calls. You know what I mean? And so that's to the point. I mean, but
Yeah,
I just
agree
like to
with
look
you.
at all
But
that data.
Allison knows because she lives on the beach. She knows that you
That's
hear
why we're
those,
passing this,
you
'cause she
hear
lives
those
on the
sirens going all day long in the summertime because they're doing their job. Dave Greenwood and his guys, they are doing their job. And they work hard every day. You pay those guys not to go in the water.
No, I appreciate it.
Not to go in the water.
And
'Cause you
I
don't
don't-
want them going in the water.
No,
Because
and
when
I-
they're going in the
I get it,
water,
Mike.
somebody's in trouble.
I get no.
And I'll definitely get to those numbers, but we're going to do whatever's right because that's what we do. And I've said this before, and I've said it to Stephen, I've said it to Mike. You know, we start off the day, and I've worked for a couple of guys in the past, and we start with the premise: is it the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, we answer that question: did we do the right thing? And that's what we're going to do on Pensacola Beach and the Santa Rosa Island Authority.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
I
Commissioner-
I appreciate that, Mike. And I don't live on the beach like Allison. I live in the hood, and I hear sirens all night, too.
And then Commissioner Berry's up.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I did have,
Commissioner May always has jokes, all right, Commissioner Berry?
yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. I did have my light on. Mike answered my question. I was just going to ask if he gauged how he gauged the likelihood of his board taking action on the 28th. And I wanted to gauge his temperature for what he thought about his board taking action on the 28th, and he kind of proactively said he feels comfortable they're going to take action. So I think that's some decent direction for us. And then you know, we do have, you know, it's very serious concern, but we do have a little bit of time, so.
Well, you know, if the board's willing, you know, because the timeline of Stefan is a little antsy with the budget. I think, Allison, you said if we did, and and obviously I want to be in unison with the board because there's a lot going on here. The fire raise, the MSBU, then we're going to talk about firehouses again, which Commissioner Hoffberger brought up. But Allison, if we did this, if we were to pass a motion optimistically that the Island Authority would do something, which I hope you can make that, Mike. I think you can. Your leadership abilities are impressive. But we'd have to come back by July 10th. Is that correct?
The proposed motion that I
got
distributed
it,
to you
yeah.
all, yeah, that would be to schedule the public hearings on the rate resolutions for July the 10th at our board meeting. That's 2 days after your budget workshop. That certainly gives the Island Authority at least 2 opportunities to have a meeting of their full board before that. So I think that would be your drop dead latest that your budget office could endure for purposes of this issue. So if you want to do that, there's a proposed motion to, before you to do that.
Okay.
If you
Yeah,
want to
Commissioner
do
Hopper,
an
you have a
earlier
question?
date, I think that would also be acceptable. A later date, I think, is going to push your budget office too late.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with that, if our colleagues are. All right, so. All right. A, move that the board schedule 2 public hearings on July 10 to adopt a resolution to amend R 2003-71 as previously amended to establish a formula to apportion the cost of providing fire protection services in the Escambia County Fire Protection District, which includes the unincorporated areas of the county, as well as B, which is adopt a resolution to amend R 2003-79 to establish a formula to apportion the cost of providing fire protection services in Escambia County Fire Protection District, which includes all lands located on Santa Rosa Island.
Is there a
So
second?
question on that, are
Oh.
we going with a specific proposal on the MSBU, or we're just proposing that
That's
we have
just
the hearing?
scheduling the hearings.
That's
Okay.
just scheduling the hearings, yeah.
Understood. A second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. I really think that's a Herculean thing for us to do. It's been 10 years. I know we got to go through public hearing and all this. That's a big deal to move forward with this, I think, for the board. So thank each and every one of us working on that. Mike, did you have some comments you want to say?
I just wanted to ask if I may be excused.
Well, I thought you look like you're in beach gear. Go to the beach.
That's where I plan on going. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Car 3-2 concerning the construction of fire station proposal as presented during the May 1st, 2025 Committee of the Whole.
Are there any speakers?
The 3-2, Gib, you're back up. I'm sorry. You're a speaker on this. Gil, I'm sorry. Well, thank you for waiting. I know sometimes these are long.
I was promised by another commissioner several years ago that this fire station on Bower was going to go. The property was supposed to be with the Navy. We turned around and he told me it was going to be 90 days. Then it was going to be 60 days. The paperwork was going to be signed, and 30 days. It's been 2 years. 2 years. We haven't had anything. You got a sports complex out there. If you had a station out there, you get injuries at the sports complex that'd be taken up like that. They're right there. They're a minute away. My insurance is more than tripled. And I got people living in the area near me, excuse me, is it on? Yeah. That can't even afford the insurance because they live on fixed incomes. When it went up so high, they don't even have it. Period. Now, you're talking about another 2 to 3 years before the fire station is built. That's 10 years we're going to have without a fire station. I think this board and this administration has to take a little bit of negligence on this part. Because 10 years is too long, way too long. And these people are going to be doing without for 10 years. Our premiums are not going to go down. They're going to keep going up. When you're paying over $6,000 a year for homeowners insurance, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. And I'm like everybody else. I'm a retired person. I'm living on fixed income. I work myself. I'm 75 years old, and I'm not going back to work. I want to enjoy life a little bit. That's what it's supposed to be about. Do we have a date that was set up for when this paperwork was signed?
There was a date in the Cal meeting, and so I would love to make a motion that we move forward with the proposed new fire station construction and that we make it based on the timeline that was proposed at the Cal.
Can I ask, Debbie, do I need to go back to CNIC? Did they move the land? I know we brought this up the last time, or West
It will be on the June 5th agenda.
For the property.
Finalize the property deal with the Navy.
So, Gil, just so you know.
July, I'm sorry, July.
So it's July. Okay, I want to get it clear. So I don't know if you know this, when I first got elected, I went over to CINC in Jacksonville and lobbied for that property. And
I know you did.
And it took longer, but I don't think I promised you.
One of the other commissioners was taking all the credit for it, too.
Well, that's okay. I care about just taking care of people. But the thing is, I will concede to you, the Navy took longer than they should have, but it's government. But they have committed to me that property is going to be turned over to us unequivocally. So, and it sounds like it's going to be on the July agenda. And then after that, I know that's probably the #1 firehouse that we need to do because the ISO score. And I don't know what the timeline is on that. I honestly don't. Wes, how soon would something like that come together?
We've already started the procurement process.
Okay.
As of this morning.
So coming down here today, I hope that gives you a little bit of relief. I know it's not there yet, but I can promise you I've been working on that, and it's not even in my district. And I know
when I see the
Commissioner Strohberger
station
cares
built,
about it.
that's when I'll be satisfied.
I know, but I don't want you to think that we're neglecting it. I know Commissioner Hoffberger, myself, we ran, Steve, all on public safety. It matters to this board, and I'm sorry it's been this long, but we're going to get it done.
Because we do have a lot of people in that area that are elderly, and they need the help. And you've all committed to public safety. I think the west side needs to be treated the same way as everybody else.
West side's the best side. Hallelujah, brother. You know.
Thank you so much for coming and for advocating for that. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, you had made a motion?
Yeah, Commissioner
Oh, I'm sorry,
Hofberger made a
Commissioner Barry, I
motion.
didn't see your light on.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'll second the motion. I just want to, make sure that her motion does contain some of the additional information that's back there where it references that there may be a phased approach to the delivery of the stations. And then my motion stands, my second stands.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, so I would, in the discussion, we talked about a fire school and a burn house at the Midtown Commerce Park, as well as looking in District 3 at an opportunity for another firehouse. And so I would ask that you accept this friendly amendment that Mr. Gilmore, we find the location and we move forward with the advanced firehouse and training, which will probably bring in tourism dollars to be added. Yeah, I talked about it at the.
It was not in the presentation. We did
wasn't.
talk about it. I love it. I agree. And I would like to amend my motion to include the fire school as well.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
No, I mean, yeah, that's,
I
and
just
that's
would
all.
like to
I don't know if it was part of the
Stefan, do we
presentation.
know
I
the
didn't do a
cost?
presentation.
Do we know the additional cost? And I'm all for it. I just like to know, I have it on the record, do we know what that would cost Wes or?
Well, we don't even know if the 32 million is real.
I've talked to several contractors, and we can do the fire school included with the budget that was proposed at the meeting.
Okay, good to hear.
That is correct.
Yeah, Ashley, Commissioner Albert, we do have some gaps, in within District 3, and I just know that there is an opportunity where we would need another firehouse, and I'm very supportive of what you're doing. And at this time, it's an economy of scale, 32 million, 36 million.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So I just want to make sure the school and then, at least one fire station is included in my district. That's all.
So a
no
total
problem.
of 5, an additional fire station and a school.
Yep.
Okay, I
All
love
right,
it.
so we have a motion.
And listen, once they do the back, and Eric may come back and say it's not necessary, but I did want to just put it on the table.
So there's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Commissioner Hofberger, pat yourself on the back. That was great leadership. And I think the citizens of Escambia County, if they don't think we believe in fire services now, they haven't been watching what's been going on here for 2 months. So I think it was a great day for fire and EMT. Go ahead.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're at the we knew the CAT before your discussion on Baptist. Commissioner Mayor, you want to do the CAT and then how do you want to do this?
Excuse me, sir?
You said you wanted to have a
Yeah,
Baptist discussion. Do we want to do the
absolutely.
county attorney report or do it in just right now?
We could do it after the county attorney report. That's fine.
Okay, Allison, you're up then.
Mark has time. Are we good? It'll take about 5 more minutes, Mark.
First item is a discussion item concerning the Escambia County Bay Center and Environs Advisory Committee. There's a new proposal for an 11-member committee that's in your backup. It's up for the board's direction.
Mr. Chairman, isn't one of the other items related to a joint meeting?
And the next item for discussion is a question to the board about scheduling a joint meeting with the city of Pensacola.
If there's an appetite to have a joint meeting, I don't see why we're going to try to seat a committee right now. I do have some issues with the way the committee's put together or whatever, but I don't know that that's a great use of time to go through that in minutia right now, other than if we are going to have a meeting with the city, which is okay, then let's wait to try to seat a committee until after we do that, if we do it at all. But that would be my preference, which would mean dropping this related to a committee being seated.
I would agree that we table the committee until after the joint meeting, because right now we don't even know what we're assigning the committee to do.
Commissioner May?
I concur, and I've spoken with the mayor, and the bureaucracy of creating other committees, I think we need to vet that out. I mean, we could get stuck on first base in perpetuity. I mean, I like citizen input, but as we commit this committee, Mr. Chairman, it's almost become more political of people lobbying each of us.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not sitting on the committee. And, the mayor was elected, the city council was elected, and we were elected to make decisions. I don't want to, be meeting with the city council every other week. But we've studied the Bay Center to death. Since we've been on this board, Steve, we've had 3 studies at least. I just don't know how much more input we need, but I'm open. But I would agree with Commissioner Holberg and Commissioner Berry that we just need to have that conversation because, quite frankly, you have the mayor, you have other city council people who are lobbying to get on that committee.
Yeah.
You have different entities that are lobbying to get on that committee, and I don't know if it's going to cause more chaos than clarity.
Well, I would agree, and it's funny, I know the mayor I saw wanted this expedited. I think we should have, and this is just throwing stuff out, I think we should have one joint meeting in June, and then if collectively all parties want to put a task force, a blue ribbon commission, to go forward with some boundaries and who we want on it, I think that would be a good starting point. I've been lobbied pretty hard, I guess so the people have here too, that they didn't think the right people were on the committee. But it would, can we drop the task force and then basically set up one joint meeting at the Bay Center in June? And Mayor Reeves, I think that would be a good starting point if you're okay with that, and the board. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't need to take any action. We don't have to even drop
Okay,
it.
I just thought we
move
should
on.
have it out on the
Yeah.
record though, because there's people asking.
Do we
and
need
I
to
don't
put out
wanna-
dates? Like, do we need a list of dates since
I think
we're
it's
all
the
here?
second week would be best because of our board meeting the first week. If that, is everyone going to be around the first week or second week of June?
Can we just get Wes and Allison, work with DC staff and get it done?
And I think
Because all of us are traveling. I mean, June's a travel month for me.
The last week of June is FAC.
Yeah, we got FAC, we got a whole lot of travel.
Let's try to do it the first or second week of June, and I'd prefer if we could do it at the Bay Center. I think that'd be good, like where we used to do the TPOs, since that's what we're talking about. And it's I don't say it's neutral
I can't do the
ground.
first week of June.
Yeah,
I can't do the second.
I mean, because I have NOPCO the first week
What
of
about
June.
the week before FAC, the third week?
I'm
I can do
gone
the week
last
before
week.
FAC.
I'm gone the last week of May.
And we have had a joint meeting with the city council in the Bay Center previously. I mean, it's been
Yeah, that's
several
good.
years, but.
Well,
Why don't we just get the administrator to work with our
Okay.
staff to get it? Because
I hate to push it off. I'm trying to get some date, but Wes, we're committed to come up with a date soon as everyone can
How does
can
June
be on board.
16th work?
I'm good.
You're asking June 16th?
June 16th.
Let's look at our calendars. Let me tell you, I don't know.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, June 16th is fine. A Wednesday?
It's not for me, I'm out
No,
of town.
Allison
Or
says
Monday? Monday, I mean?
You good with that, Strawberry?
No,
He's
I'm
out that week.
Yeah, we ain't gonna, can Wes and Allison, can y'all just get with all of us? Because we're not gonna be able to figure it out.
Okay, just, I'd like to have it, later if possible, if we can get a quorum. This is why we can't have multiple ones, but if we could get one in June, I think that would be in the interest of the city and.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that, that we try to get all five. I mean, because.
No, I agree.
It's
I
important.
totally agree.
Ashley and I both represent the city, it's at
Give it another day.
all of our districts. So,
When are you gone?
I'm only gone the last week of May, and then we're all gone for FAC.
Lumen, when are you gone?
I'm in NOPCO. I cannot,
What about June 2nd?
I'm going from like the 28th to like the 3rd of June.
I won't, yeah.
I'm at NOPCO.
How about the
June.
12th or 13th?
I can do that.
I'm gone the 9th through the 15th.
Okay.
And Steve's going to 16.
Damn.
I leave on the,
Oh, hey, hold on. We have a board meeting on the 20th. Why don't we do it after the board meeting? Because we're only going to be
Because
talking.
nobody want to be with y'all that long. I mean, but we'll try.
No, the 20th afternoon's a good day, because we're already going to
That's a
be
good
there.
idea.
Well, let's do it right directly after the meeting then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. We'll
Can
come
you
in
work
short.
that out? June 20th?
All right, June 20th.
To continue the who's on first, we've got a council. If y'all don't mind, we will start working on it tomorrow. I'd love to. I mean, if staff can get your 5 schedules, and if we can find those
June 20th
spots,
is a
then
good
we'll.
starting point.
But we'll do anything we can or postpone anything that we can. We're in the same urgency you are, so
Okay.
if that's all right. So I think that'll probably be best. The first 5 dates worked for me, and then the last one didn't. So that.
Oh, June
I think that's
20th
happening.
didn't?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm
So
sorry. All right.
do that, and then we'll work with council staff as well. Move quickly. So thank you.
All right. Well, that was a.
just so you know, I'm not going to be here and I know how much you value my opinion.
You could speak up and tell us when you're going to be here. I don't control your vocal cords.
He has grandkids, man. He out of here.
But we do care, Grandpa.
The first action item, this is a settlement for the Eager Beaver case. Commissioner May must abstain. Please allow him to read his abstention.
Mr. Chairman, the measure for my agency and nature of my conflict of interest in the measure as follows. It's Camden County Board of County Commissioners meeting May 15, 2025. County Attorney's report. item 1 through 3, recommending the concerning the approval of a proposed settlement in the case of Eager Beaver Professional Tree Care LLC versus Escambia County Board of County Commissioners. Case 2020 CA 000328 presents a conflict of interest pursuant to statute 112-3143 Florida statute, or an appearance of a conflict of interest pursuant to 286.012 Florida statute, because the attorney for the plaintiff is employed by the same law firm I have retained for my personal matters. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move the item.
Vote. 4 with Commissioner May abstaining.
The last item on the agenda is an informational item. It's a good outcome of a dismissal in a case for your acceptance of information, and that concludes my report.
Well, thank you, Madam Attorney. Okay, we are down to just talking about Baptist, so Commissioner May, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and I knew that there was a little hesitation about getting this on the board, and we're going to bring this to a action item on our June meeting, and in the spirit of collaboration and what I promised the mayor that I would get it on the agenda. And so let me start by saying, I would not obligate this board to anything other than my vote of support. Just a little history of Baptist. Mark Faulkner's here, and the mayor's here, and I'd certainly like to hear from them. The point of this discussion, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to be very brief, is just to get a clear understanding of where we're going and to try to ask any questions that would benefit us publicly and to encourage people to get answers. This has been a long journey for my district. It's critical. Baptist Hospital is as critical to my district as outlying Field 8 is to Commissioner Berry and Commissioner Stroberger, as critical as Pensacola Beach is to Commissioner Holberger, and probably as critical as, Warrenton to you. It sits in the heart of my district, between the city of Pensacola and Escambia County. It connects us. It's emotional for me at some points. My father was one of the black ministers that donated $25 a week for the construction of Baptist Hospital, because African Americans could only go to the hospital that was owned by the county, which is University Hospital. This is something that's very sensitive in my community. It's something that raises a lot of eyebrows. I will assure you that there will be a ton of people here in June when this issue is brought forth for a vote. I have committed to supporting the mayor in this initiative. I committed to supporting Baptist in this initiative. And what that support looks like, I don't know. I don't know if it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, or what it looks like. And Commissioner Kohler, I want to at least have this conversation because things have gone into the media. I did not commit to demolition. That's not my commitment. My commitment was to housing, health, and food in a district, however that looks. That was a commitment that we've made. This is not something that just popped up. James Lima did a study. We spent money through our CRA with Chad Henderson many years ago as a collaboration with the city. And we did a Renaissance strategic assessment and spent money with the city and their CRA, with Chad Henderson and the group out of Tallahassee, trying to figure out how do we live, work, and play in that neighborhood. That's a critical neighborhood that connects North Hill to Brownsville to the west side. So I'm not interested in necessarily more studies. I think the people have truly spoken through the dial sessions, the neighborhood groups, the community groups, the constituents that I represent don't want to hear that. They want to see something done, and I want to figure out a way in which we can do that. That's something that's acceptable to my colleagues, and not speak for my colleagues, but we've studied this thing to death. It's a critical part of the growth of Escambia County and downtown Pensacola, Mr. Chairman. So I laid that out, and would expect that the mayor will bring forth a request that will be on the June agenda. And if time would permit, if you would allow the mayor 2 or 3 minutes and Mr. Faulkner 2 or 3 minutes, I would appreciate it.
I have no problem with giving both those folks time to speak. I hope you're ready for some questions, because I'm going to have a lot. But who do you want to go first, the mayor or Mr. Faulkner?
Mr. Mayor, I don't even know if the mayor is aware of the Live, Work, and Play with Chad Henderson that the county paid for. It was another study that we did. And I think this was marked before we found out that they were leaving. But my CRA director, Claire Long, today when we met to talk about our CRA, reminded me that we had invested quite a bit of money into a study for the Baptist Hospital before we started the infill housing program that we had. And so it's a lot of valuable information, Mr. Mayor, and hopefully your staff will meet with our CRA staff and our planning staff to look at this, to incorporate in the studies that Baptist has already done as we come forth with a presentation next week.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And
I forgot about it. I would have mentioned
Yeah.
it to you. I wouldn't give you a surprise today had not today when we were talking about this item. Staff reminded me that we have made a significant investment in the Baptist Hospital area, and so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And certainly on our side, I know our conversations with the county started quite a while ago. And, my hope, I don't want to make an impromptu presentation on an add-on item. My hope is just for us to have the ability to share the information with you that we have. Our emails, of course, we talked about what our commitment to the community is, what our commitment to the county is in terms of making sure that folks that live in the surrounding area have the opportunity to see this generational housing product. So really, respectfully, what I request is for it to be on the agenda so we can present information to you. I don't know that it's fair to the county for you to get piecemeal information through media and vice versa. I think the ability to have our staff come explain where exactly we are, where we are on the timeline, and the urgency isn't just something that we're doing for the sake of doing it. As you guys know, with bids and all of that, there's certain rules, and you've got to take action in a certain amount of time. So certainly, again, respectfully request just the ability, and wherever that vote goes is where that vote goes. But what I don't want to do for the sake of the city and the sake of yourselves is continue to have this outside conversation about what is or isn't without really our ability to have a day in here to come tell you exactly what's going on, which I think is to the benefit of everybody here, to staff, to the members, and certainly to us. And so I'm not saying I'm more than willing to answer any questions at any time, Commissioner or Board Chair Kohler. But what I'd rather do is have our staff come give you a presentation and be able to answer questions after we've been able to have that opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, and thank you for being here. In this presentation, I think the commitment that I've heard, and I think that, hopefully you've heard that. I know Mr. Faulkner's heard that. People wanted housing. Mm-hmm. People wanted some type of medical. I'm big on urgent care, and I think people say this is just, for people who are in the housing projects or in the urban inner city. But, try going to urgent care from downtown Pensacola, after a parade. So some type of medical urgent care, I think, is not only what the constituents in Morris Court and Addis Court and Brownsville have requested, but I think that you will hear that same echo from people downtown as well that you represent. And the other one is, it's a food desert. And for the people that live in that area, that walk, they were very dependent on the cafeteria and the food. And so I would just, whether it's 2 million, whether it's 3 million, I'm going to ask this board as a presentation to commit to a project, not necessarily a demolition, but with those three main things, whether James Lima or rather Live, Work, and Play, all those studies have said the same thing, and the residents have said it. So I'm just asking that if that would be an inclusive, or at least get your opinion of that, where we are.
Well, to your point, we've had lots of studies that the community has, shared lots of things, including healthcare, but I think it brings up the greater point that sometimes I think what gets lost here is as if the city's obligation, be it financial, be it bandwidth, is over at demolition. The blood, sweat, and tears that the city is going to be putting into this project only is beginning. Streets need to be put in, lights need to be put in. The idea that this is the last 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever $1 million and somehow the obligation is complete, isn't the case. And again, those are things that we can have and in what I feel like, a setting where we can present that to you, get that to you in advance. You can ask any questions that you'd like. But, I would just prefer, you guys are more than willing, I'll do whatever I can to answer questions that you have. I just think probably the most prudent way to handle this is allow the city and folks that have been working on this and waking up every day, working on this for months and months of time, to be able to present that information, get that information to you in advance, make sure we're all singing or agreeing or disagreeing on the same sheet of music, and then go from there. And if the vote's no, the vote's no. But I would feel certainly better representing the city to make sure that all 5 of you had every bit of information and understand exactly what we're talking about, here from a demolition, from a future, and all of the things that you discuss, and date back to emails, the things that we talked about trying to protect the community back in January of 2024. And so, I think that's really what I would hope. And again, happy to answer any questions or attempt to, but if I'm not trying to be evasive, I just think it would be appropriate if the city had the opportunity to come present that information to you.
And my point for putting this on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is my commitment. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Well, at least try. But to also give a fair chance to Baptist and to the city to hear from all 5 of us, because, we're not an executive.
Right.
We're one of 5. You can meet with all 5 of us, and all 5 of us would have different ideas of what we want to see, what we want to hear, but to at least present to you what we want you to address in the presentation. Part of you and I've had a conversation that I think if we're going to put money in, that we got to be a part of the decision-making process. Sure. We got to be at the table. And so I think for me, the number one priority for me is just the housing, health, food, and being at the table to figure out and be a part of the decision-making for the direction and which way we go.
And certainly a fair request moving forward of anybody. It's kind of similar to the Bay Center, who's coming to the table with financing, who's coming to the table with this, and those folks having the expectation of being involved. I don't, again, I'd love to present in totality, but to answer that question, could or should the county expect, or what is our expectation if the county is a contributor to this project, being part of visioning moving forward, and again, where that work is really just beginning, with demolition complete, certainly would be a completely fair request in my opinion.
Commissioner Hopper?
So how are those meetings typically structured when you come and present? Do we give them a certain amount of time to present? Do we submit questions beforehand? What does that look like?
Discussion items. They can come either as a discussion or a voting item.
Are we doing this during a joint meeting, or are we doing it during?
No, this is just you want to present, right?
So typically, there is some arrangement as far as who is going to be the lead on setting the agenda. Historically, we've almost always gone over to City Hall, and so their staff, usually like Don Crayer's office, would put like an agenda together, but with input from our internal staff.
So are we doing Baptist as a joint meeting, or are you coming to us?
Sorry, yeah, my expectation on Baptist was, I'm good with whatever form, if you think there's a preference. I was thinking as a discussion and/or action item here. Bringing our staff to present to you, this is an item on your agenda.
Right.
I'm happy to bring our staff to you. We've got one joint meeting that we can't get a schedule working.
Right.
I'm certainly not prescribing another unless that's something you guys wanted.
Okay.
Add it on the agenda, and we vote it up or vote it down.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I'm fine with that, but I want to, Mayor. No, I want to work with the city and I want to work with the mayor, but also I want to give you some things I want you to come back with before we get there and send to us. I was discouraged a little bit that the county wasn't involved, and I know this went back to March of '23 where we were conceptually talking about dollars. We didn't really know, right, where we're going to land. And I know that Baptist wasn't in on that, and I get it, but I think you could have done an NDA to have other opinions on the bids. I wasn't there. I don't know what was the best bid. But I would like to know when you come back, because I think it's important I share with you what I did, and because I didn't know. We didn't have anyone there. I had our staff go to look at the bids that you guys put there. I had our purchasing department go through and line item, and I didn't tell them what to vote for or tell us what to do, Mayor. And we're at a different, our staff's at a different opinion on what we think you should have accepted, okay? Are you locked into the current bid now? Is there any option to could take in one of the other 2 lower bids?
Well, we've handled the process, and again, I have no issue in any sense on any project for proper vetting and transparency and all those things. Yet again, respectfully, has your staff had direct contact with our staff about the thought process behind all of that as well? That doesn't mean whether it changes their mind or it doesn't change their mind. I guess all I'm asking for is we've put months and months and months of time beyond procurement into studies, hiring a consultant that does demolitions all over the country that has been over our shoulder to make sure all of these things happen. So I'm not saying that your staff's opinion is invalid or that there aren't good points. I'm not commenting on that. What I'm commenting on is I think I certainly would like for our staff, who has woken up every day for more than a year working on this project, to be able to present the information we have, and then if those questions remain valid, or can it be the first, second, or third, and you want to poke holes into that's certainly, you're right, but I don't know that it's fair to get ahead of our ability to tell you exactly what's happened so far, that I couldn't imagine that your staff would have been following it, day to day for an entire year.
No,
it
they
might
only
just be
went with
see
what we
what's at the
received
end.
in purchasing,
And
right.
just as an anecdotal example, one bid puts in road replacement money, one doesn't. Then that we don't need to go down that road, but there's different. I believe, as I've said publicly, if we're stopping at whatever the cheapest thing is to do, then we could be leaving out some very, very important aspects of this. Important aspects to the neighborhood, to quality, to backing up what they say they're going to do, meeting deadlines. There's lots of things that affect all of our job. You guys know in your line of work. So all I respectfully request is to allow our staff to tell you about all the hard work we put in for a year since this conversation, since you guys approved your staff to come work with us. And even though that didn't really happen, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't have been or aren't willing in the future to be open-minded about any conversation that you guys want to have.
I have one thing, then I'll go to you, Commissioner Berry. The other thing that I think that I would challenge you to look at, just because I have questions about it, that area's in a CRA. You're going to get all that money back in the CRA, 75%. I believe that most of the money in CRAs are for CRAs, and they should go for those type of communities. I'm a big supporter of them. I didn't see in your, maybe there is when you brief, but I would like to know what you're going to contribute from the CRA. I have an interest in that.
Perfect example. We've got that breakdown already of exactly what's obligated and what isn't within the West Side TIF. And one piece of information we're working on right now is also trying to conduct a survey of the folks that are within a few hundred feet of these projects and with the proposed projects that are only in the county, that aren't in the city. Because I think we all talk about all the time, very few people, including us, may know when we leave the city or when we leave the county. So the idea that the positive impact of Baptist Hospital stops at some phantom county or city-county line, I think we could all agree isn't the case, and vice versa. Great investments on South Navy Boulevard. You don't think that's good for the city? Of course it is. Of course that's.
I get it.
I think. And so we're trying to conduct some of that just to see, hey, do the folks who just live in the county right on the other side of the line think that leaving Baptist as it is, or would they rather see some redevelopment quicker? We can we can probably assume that most of those folks who don't pay any city tax at all are going to see some benefit from that as well. So certainly understand that questioning, that the money directly would go back in, but I think there's reverberating impacts for the region, for the community
I just
as
think it
well.
should be
But
in the
we'll bring
budget.
that.
That's
We're
all I'm
happy to
saying.
bring that breakdown, and we'll share that with you
Commissioner
line by
Berry?
line.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so if the intent is to have it on the June 5th agenda, if that's the intent of the board.
If that's what the board wants to do, I'm open to that.
Okay, if that is the intent, why don't we, it's been a while, but, we have had real presentations come in on, evenings where we had a board meeting, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult. That is an evening meeting day. If the intent is to, and Mr. Mayor mentioned it a couple of times, whether the board votes it up or down, he wants, feels like he owes it to his staff for them to have an opportunity to advocate for their own proposal, whether that's what we agree with or not. He feels that would be fair. It's hard. It's hard to argue with that when you have a elected official ask you for that. Why don't we allow that to happen in the morning.
Oh, the
And-
second meeting in June 20th?
No, in the morning of June 5th.
Oh, at the Cal.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that for your Cal?
If the intent
Oh, that's
is.
an awesome idea, Commissioner Berry.
If the intent is for the board to take the item up, would I rather talk about it in the morning or put everything off until the evening? I would rather talk about it in the morning.
So
Because there-
would you rather do that for the
Yeah,
Cal?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
during agenda review.
So we'll do that after agenda review and then the presentation in the morning before the June meeting.
And at that time, we don't have to take, we won't be taking public comments. It's an opportunity where we can interact with, the mayor as well as, I don't know if city council people will be here, but whoever's here, as well as the staff, in a back and forth format. And then in the evening, we take, I wouldn't expect them to, certainly be in attendance maybe, but I wouldn't expect a lot of conversation between us and them. We hear from the public, and then we make a decision based on, wherever each of us are on the issue.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I do have hopes that we may have another discussion item that comes for that June 5th meeting based on some, some conversations that, that I had yesterday. Some of you may have had some of the same conversations that may be lengthy in the evening.
Yep.
So if we know, if the intent is to have this on the evening, let's carve out the morning. Let's address a lot of the minutia of some of this, because some of this we are going to be, it is going to be in the minutia. And Mike, candidly, I have some of the same questions you have, but so that would be a good discussion probably for the morning, and then allow us to take our action in the evening, whatever we do, and that would hopefully also set aside time for, if we do get, a letter related to something else.
Can I just comment that, because I agree. Some of the stuff I know you're talking about that I've already committed to put on the June agenda with OF8 measures. I'm just exhausted by getting them 30 minutes before we get here. I'm not going to put anything on the agenda if it's after the Friday deadline. So
I think that you've stated that amongst us previously, and I did communicate that in my conversations yesterday, and I believe Madam Council has a healthy relationship with their council, and I think she's comfortable communicating that timeline as well. So I agree with you. She actually just mentioned she has communicated that. So we would expect that if we're going to discuss something on a Thursday, you're saying Friday by close of business.
By close of business,
and
right.
that's a reasonable, and that's been the feedback I'm told has been, yes, they can do that. So
I just said, and I think it's the right place for the board, and I appreciate the support on that, Commissioner Berry, because we've had these things come in. We don't have time to review them. We're making decisions that I just think it's better for us to have a little bit of time to look over the stuff. Commissioner May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner Berry, I'm certainly supportive of the mayor and his staff and Baptist presenting that morning. As you said, public input, I can tell you, it's still going to be a challenging and long meeting because I can, regardless of what happens in the morning, I can just tell the constituency in which I represent, anytime Baptist is on the agenda, it's going to be a lot of input, a lot of different opinions. I mean, and it's been a long time coming. I mean, if we think Outline Field 8 has been a long time coming, Baptist has been longer. Quite frankly, it probably has indirectly or directly affected more people. It's an issue that goes beyond the geographical boundaries of just people who live, in Cooper-Young Park or Morris Court or Addis Court or North Hill. So I do appreciate them presenting that morning, but I certainly, Mr. Chairman, as we prepare the evening agenda, it's going to be a real robust discussion. It's probably going to be a long discussion that we're going to have when it comes forward.
well, I would say let's aspire to do it.
I like your proposal.
And one of the reasons I said
No, I concur with you, Steve.
Yeah,
I mean,
Commissioner Strohberger, I believe, is out on the 20th. Well, I mean, I think our meeting's on the 20th, I believe. So,
It is.
I mean, that's the time we're together. Commissioner Strohberger is out on the 20th, so I don't think that there would be a real appetite for the four of us to try to move forward with, with the discussion related to OLF8. And I do think I'm optimistic about what we may receive, and I'd like to not put it off 2 months if possible.
I'm totally on board with that. Both
So
of
let-
positions.
so I'd like to
I was in no
aspire.
way, Steve, requesting to, that wasn't significant. I was just saying how important Baptist is going to be to us. And I know that outline Field 8 is important to Commissioner Stroberger and to you, but this Baptist issue, as you said, we don't know how anybody's going to vote, but it's, pretty much critical and very important
Yeah, and
to
we
me.
had some important issues today. I'm
So
picking
I'm,
the kids
I
up at
I
school,
think
so-
we're in
Yeah,
agreement.
no, I get it, yeah, well.
Commissioner May, I think
They're probably happy you
obviously
did.
we'll do the discussion in the morning with the presentation from the mayor. And actually, if you don't mind, Mark, do you want to say anything? Do you have anything you want to add? or
Yeah, 'cause I'm
Casey?
ready to go.
You good? Okay. I think that's a great idea. And so the first meeting in June, Mayor, if you guys can be
Did
ready.
Mark not want to speak?
I asked him, he said no. So, are you have anything to say, Mayor?
Obviously, we're in a quite similar line of work. We understand, try to the value of time. We will give you all the information that we'd like to share with you as concisely as possible and leave as much time for questions. So I'll certainly direct our staff to hit as many of the highlights as possible, and then certainly understand big items and long agendas and all those types of things. So we'll prepare accordingly.
Mr. Mayor, I think it would help us, I've had questions, concrete crushing, can we strike a deal to use the base for our roads, egress, outgress, I think that if some of that stuff can be worked out with Wes beforehand with staff, that it won't be as many questions so we can be briefed. I mean, what's the plans, for healthcare there? What's the plan for food? I mean, if we could work those things out before we have to come out here in a public meeting to hash it out, I think it would bring about a lot more efficiency if there's a clear understanding between our legal, your administrator, and our administrator to get those questions answered. And I want to say one other thing, and Claire is here. I don't think people realize how much effort we put through our CRAs, as you said, in connecting those CRAs and the investment that we put. I mean, quite frankly, those 14 houses that we gave to Habitat, they were centered around the Baptist project. I mean, that's why they were built where they were built, because they were infill. So we have been, a contributor, a supporter, and, I think that it's important that staff recognize the importance of collaboration of working together as well.
If I hear you guys correct, then maybe what we'll do is let me get with my staff. We'll get that presentation ready to go. We'll get with your staff to do that, and if you can get some, those types of questions, helps us make it even more concise when we get there, and happy to have those all, and if we can have all those answered ahead of before we even come up here, that's perfectly fine with us. So again, we've got all that information ready. It's just about putting together something that answers as many of y'all's questions ahead of time as possible and getting that to you. We're happy to get that to you in advance as well to look through it ahead of the presentation. So.
And I think Baptist has a Lima plan, but I think Claire can get with Meredith to some of the other studies that have already been done, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, I think it's there, and I think it's quantitative data that the residents have spoken. So hopefully it will be a benefit to our staff and your staff, and probably for Claire and our CRA to jive our CRA plan with your CRA plan, so we can kind of know where we're going.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, appreciate your consideration on this.
I think Commissioner Hopper has a question.
I have a question not related to this.
Oh,
so
okay.
You're good.
Thank you, guys.
Our special meeting on the 20th, Commissioner Stroberger is not going to be here. What exactly is that meeting discussing?
So it was originally scheduled to ensure that we had time held for finalization of documents related to the bank loan for the John R. Jones Park, which is that $25 million which the board has approved in concept. Our financial folks need us to finalize documents and get authorization for the chairman's signature, and they need that meeting as close to the end of June as possible. So we held it for that. But I would say that we can put unless you want to turn it into a full-blown second meeting.
No, that's what I was making sure, that we were limiting what we put on there since he's not.
We can put as much on there as you want. We'll advertise it as a general purpose meeting.
Well, I was thinking we should maybe, since it's a short meeting, bring up West contract, because it's getting close. We need to make a decision as a board. I thought you were coming back.
He's going to be here that night. Should we move it to a night meeting?
That's a Friday.
All right, let's, All right, I want Steve to be here. We'll do that in July then.
That's a Friday night.
The first meeting in July.
Juneteenth is the day before, it's a holiday, so
I was going to
Thursday.
try to do it, but if Steve's not here, we'll do it in the first meeting in July. What's his contract? Okay. All right.
That Monday was a problem is for some reason, because people are already traveling to FAC, we didn't look like we were going to have
Yeah,
a quorum.
okay, that's fine. Okay, well, it's fine, I'm moving. All right, I'll move it to
We
the
need
first
3
week
to
in
make
July.
sure we can finalize the John R. Jones documents.
Yeah. Hey, just Commissioner Strober, I know I avoided you. Did you have the last word before we conclude? You have nothing to say? Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you all.